Chapter 681. When did I ever say I'd spare you? Please continue reading on X and Zeroville. This. The Dark Mountain Master turned pale with fright. His face was filled with fear. Hongye used the Heaven Grade skill Sky Burning Cold Chi, Yutong used the Heaven Grade skill Great Sky Petrification, and Long Yu used the Heaven Grade skill Startling Spear technique. How could thousands of Dark Race members withstand such an attack? In just a few minutes, thousands of Dark Race members had all died at the hands of the Apocalypse Legion. The Mountain Master collapsed to the ground. He had never seen such a terrifying scene since he was born. Yi Li slowly walked towards the Dark Mountain Master. The Dark Mountain Master looked at Yi Li in horror. He felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. "You don't come over?" The Dark Mountain Master shouted at Yi Li in fear. "Air?" The Dark Mountain Master shouted. He shivered and peed his pants. However, Yi Li did not attack the Dark Mountain Master. He was simply scared to this extent. Yi Li wanted to laugh. He really wanted to laugh. The leader of the Dark Mountain was too useless. He actually peed his pants. Who could he reason with? Did your Dark Mountain meet a super strong existence? Yi Li looked at the Mountain Master and asked calmly. The Dark Mountain Master was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. How did you know? The Mountain Master said in shock. Yi Li smiled. Of course it's the Dark Race members from your Dark Mountain. There seem to be more than 10 10th tier Master level Dark Race members. As soon as these words were spoken, the Mountain Master's expression changed. More than 10 10th tier Master level Dark Race members? They were all generals of the Dark Mountain. How are they? The Mountain Master looked at Yi Li tentatively. Of course Yi Li knew who he was referring to. He smiled leisurely. What else? Of course they're dead. What ending could they have other than dying? When the Mountain Master heard this, he was scared out of his wits. You haven't answered my question. Yi Li looked at the Mountain Master indifferently. The Mountain Master looked at Yi Li in shock. If I answer, can you spare my life? Answer me first. Don't make me repeat myself a third time, Yi Li said slowly. The Dark Mountain Master knew that if he did not answer, he would die immediately because he knew that what Yi Li said was not empty words. Our Dark Mountain has indeed encountered an unprecedented existence. It's also a zombie. It's too terrifying. I'll never forget how terrifying that zombie is. Yi Li smiled and said to the Mountain Master, Is that zombie wearing a red cloak and silver boxing gloves? How did you know? The Mountain Master looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face. Because he's also a zombie under my command, Yi Li said innocently. What? Hearing this, the Mountain Master finally knew what kind of existence he had provoked. He finally knew. My lord, I have said what I wanted to say. Please spare my life. The Mountain Master did not want to take revenge at this moment. He only wanted to survive. As long as Yi Li could spare his life, he would kowtow 180 times. When did I say that I would spare you? Yi Li smiled calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, the Mountain Master's pupils rapidly constricted. You said so, my lord. No, I never said that. As soon as he finished speaking, a shrill scream sounded from the plaza of the Dark Mountain. Chapter 682. By Wawa, please continue reading on X and Zeroville. Yi Li thought that Ada was nearby, so he let Alt to come over first. Immediately, Yi Li used his mind to summon Alt to roar. Not long after, they heard a roar and Ada appeared in front of Yi Li. Master. Ada called out to Yi Li. Then Alt greeted the Apocalypse Legion. Master, I found traces of Bai Wawa. Ada suddenly said to Yi Li. Oh? A playful expression appeared on Yi Li's face. I just found out too. I was about to use telepathy to tell you, but I didn't expect you to bring me over with telepathy first, Ada said, looking at Yi Li. Telepathy was a way for Yi Li to communicate with the Apocalypse Legion. No matter how far away they were, they could communicate with telepathy. Bai Wawa is now a zombie lord. He's attacking a base city, Ada continued. Yi Li was stunned. A zombie lord? Then he understood. That Bai Wawa Ada saw should be one of Bai Wawa's 3 souls. He thought that Bai Wawa was doing well. He actually led zombies to attack a base city. That was really bold. Alta, bring us there, Yi Li said to Alda. Ada nodded. Then Yi Li and the Apocalypse Legion headed in the same direction. An hour later, Yi Li saw a base city being attacked by zombies. The soldiers of the base city tried their best to attack the zombies with laser cannons, but there were too many zombies, more than 10,000 of them. Boom. Violent explosions sounded non-stop. Master, Bai Wawa is there. Yutong pointed in a direction. Naturally, Yili also saw Bai Wawa. Including Bai Wawa, now he had found 4 zombies. Let's go over. Then Yili and the Apocalypse Legion disappeared on the spot. Roar. Roar. Those fearless zombies frantically piled up on the city wall. The outer wall of the base city seemed to be in danger. You know what to do. Ito. The Apocalypse Legion responded and began to attack. Everyone on the city wall outside West Base City was stunned when they saw this scene. What's going on? They saw the huge zombie crowd falling to the ground one after another, and a few figures began to appear in their eyes. Could it be that a supreme powerhouse has come to help us? A 10th tier evolved being exclaimed in shock. Yili went to Bai Wawa's side and looked at his fat body casually. Bai Wawa was less than 5 feet tall, but he was wide and fat, weighing at least about 200 pounds. A human? Bai Wawa glared at Yili. You should call me Master, Yili said calmly. Bai Wawa smiled coldly. Master? I'm afraid you're thinking too much. Yili shook his head slightly and reached out a big hand. Bai Wawa looked at Yili mockingly and was prepared to dodge Yili's attack. However, he did not expect that he could not dodge it. Just like that, Yili grabbed Bai Wawa. Bai Wawa started to struggle, but he couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. Yili put Bai Wawa into the system space. Then he opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize zombies in batch. He turned all the zombies into female zombies. Hongya has been upgraded to a tier 2 lord level zombie. Yili looked satisfied as he started to use the soul summoning banner. Chapter 683. West Base City. Please continue reading on X0VL. A few seconds later, Bai Wawa's 3 souls and 7 spirits appeared in front of Yili. Yili synthesized Bai Wawa's 3 souls and 7 spirits, and the full body of Bai Wawa, the tier 1 lord level iron-legged zombie appeared. A master? Bai Wawa was stunned at first, but then he began to rejoice. Other members of the Apocalypse Legion and Bai Wawa were warmly chatting with each other, all looking quite happy. The genetic warriors and soldiers on the city wall outside of West Base City were frozen like clay sculptures. Their eyes were wide open for the largest time in history, and their mouths were so wide open that they could contain an extra-large bowl. For them, his actions were like supporting a collapsing building. Are you shocked? Suddenly, a faint voice sounded from the outer city wall. What? The genetic warriors and soldiers on the outer city wall all looked in the direction of the voice. Then they were scared out of their wits. It was because they saw Yili. They clearly remembered that Yili was still under the city wall a second ago, but now he actually appeared in front of them. The genetic warriors and the army could no longer imagine how high Yili's realm was. They really could not imagine it. As senior, thank you for saving West Base City. An old man who was a 10th tier evolved being was the first to come back to his senses. He looked at Yili gratefully. It's all right. It's just convenient, Yili said slowly. The genetic warriors and the army were shocked when they heard this. Was this how a supreme existence spoke? Killing so many zombies was just convenient for him. For some reason, they suddenly felt that Yili was like a mountain that they couldn't reach. Yili ignored the genetic warriors and the army. He activated his swift steps and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on the streets of West Base City. Every time he came to the base city, he would choose to have a big meal. This was Yili's usual style. Then he used the heavenly spirit eyes to find a good restaurant. Yili slowly walked towards the restaurant. The exterior of this restaurant was indeed not bad, and the dishes inside were also very good. There were birds in the sky, wild geese in the clouds, and cows and sheep on the ground. It could be said that everything was available. After ordering a large table of dishes, Yili started to sweep the dishes on the table. In an instant, Yili finished all the dishes. Just as he was about to pay the bill and leave, a very embarrassed voice entered his ears. Sir, can you lend me some money? I forgot my wallet. Yili looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it was a very beautiful girl. This girl was actually a tier 5 evolved being. For a tier 5 evolved being to be able to say such words, it seemed like she had high moral standards. Sure, Yili said slowly. The girl looked at Yili gratefully. Thank you, sir. Yili didn't care about money because he had so much money that he didn't know how to spend it. Moreover, there weren't many places in this world where money could be used. Then, after Yili paid for the girl, he walked out of the restaurant. Sir, wait for me. The girl stopped Yili and followed him. What is it? Yili stopped in his tracks and looked at the girl indifferently. Sir, can you come with me to my house and let me return the money to you? The girl said in embarrassment. Of course, Yili knew why the girl in front of him was embarrassed. Other than being shy, there was another reason. It was because of his handsome face. Chapter 684. Do you care much about your looks? Please continue reading on X0ville. Yili looked at the girl in front of him indifferently and said slowly, "Do I look like someone who lacks money?" The girl was stunned. She obviously didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. "Sir, don't misunderstand. I just want to return the money to you." The girl looked at Yili in embarrassment. "There's no need to return the money. I Yili don't lack money at all. Money is just a number to me," Yili said lightly. The girl looked at Yili curiously. She knew very well that there was no Yili in the big families in West Bay City. She couldn't see any spiritual energy fluctuations on Yili's body. She thought that Yili was just an ordinary person. "Yo Xiaozhu, who is this handsome guy? Is he your boyfriend?" A sharp female voice entered Yili's ears. Immediately, a few 17 or 18-year-old girls appeared before Yili's eyes. The girl in the lead was also a Tier 5 evolved being like Xiaozhu. Lu Luo. Xiaozhu stared at the girl who spoke and could not help but frown. "Handsome, you're really amazing. You actually managed to win Miss Xia's heart." Lu Luo looked at Yili with deep mockery in her eyes. Yili secretly shook his head and couldn't help but sigh. Why did the wind not stop when the tree wanted to calm down? "Leave." Yili looked at Lu Luo indifferently. Lu Luo was stunned. She didn't expect Yili to dare to speak to him like this. "How dare an ordinary person like you ask me to leave?" Lu Luo gritted her teeth and stared at Yili. Yili smiled and looked at Lu Luo calmly. "I'll say it again. Leave. Don't make me say it a third time. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to Sister Lu like that?" "That's right. He's just a pretty boy. He really doesn't know his place. Do you know that Sister Lu only needs one finger to make you disappear from this world?" The girls around Lu Luo started to mock Yili. Yili shook his head. He really did not understand why there were always such ants who wanted to find trouble with him. "Girls like you should care a lot about your looks, right?" Yili glanced at the girls in front of him. "Of course," a girl said proudly, as if she was very confident in her appearance. Yili slowly said, "In that case, from now on, you don't have to care about your looks." As soon as he finished speaking, the girls instantly became unrecognizable. "Shaoling Ajin, you guys," Lu Luo looked at the girls in horror. The girls did not know what was going on and looked at Lu Luo in confusion. "Your faces." Lu Luo did not dare to continue watching. When the girls heard this, they took out the mirrors they carried with them and took a look. "Oh no. Air?" Instantly, a few screams could be heard. The passers-by were all attracted over. They looked at the girls and then were all shocked. "Ghosts?" The girls fainted on the ground. There was no change in Yili's handsome face at all. It was as if nothing had happened. However, Xiaozhu and Lu Luo looked at Yili in extreme fear. "Don't ever be shocked. Everything I Yili do will shock you for 3 days and 3 nights, Yili said slowly to Xiaozhu and Lu Luo. Chapter 685. Everyone in the Xia family was shocked. Xiaozhu and Lu Luo were shocked and looked at Yili in a daze. "Did you do that to their faces?" A few seconds later, Lu Luo stared at Yili. "Looks like you're not too stupid." Yili looked at Lu Luo indifferently. Lu Luo was shocked. She really didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. She gritted her teeth and stared at Yili. "Their families are all famous in West Bay City. How dare you do this to them?" The onlookers all looked at Yili in shock. They thought that this person must have eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall to pour acid on these girls. "Do you want to become like them?" Yili looked at Lu Luo. Lu Luo's expression changed when she heard this. "You." Yili ignored Lu Luo and looked at Xiaozhu. "Didn't you ask me to go to your house to get the money? Then let's go." Xiaozhu hurriedly nodded and brought Yili to the Xia family. The news of the zombies attacking West Bay City hadn't spread yet. The outer city wall was still quite far from the main city. The residents of West Bay City didn't know that the zombies had attacked West Bay City, so they naturally didn't know that Yili was their savior. When Yili and Xiaozhu arrived outside the Xia family's house, the disciples guarding the door looked at Yili. They were all stunned. Well. Their eyes were wide open because they had seen Yili on the outer wall when the zombies attacked the base city. Xiaozhu did not understand why they were so shocked. "What is wrong with you?" How could these disciples of the Xia family be able to say a complete sentence? Their faces were as shocked as they could be. They had seen the scene of Yili saving the entire base city. "Xiaozhu, you're back?" At this moment, a middle-aged man walked out. "Third uncle." Xiaozhu called out to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man nodded and a smile appeared on his face. However, this smile froze because he saw Yili. You, the middle-aged man started stuttering. Just like the other disciples of the Xia family, he couldn't utter a complete sentence. Third uncle, what's wrong? Xia Zhu was very puzzled. She did not understand why they were all so strange. I think they are doing this because of me. Don't waste time. Just give me the money. Yili looked at Xia Zhu indifferently. Xia Zhu was stunned and looked at Yili in shock. Just as she was about to go in and get the money, an old man walked out. This old man was a 10th tier evolved being. Say, senior? The old man's eyes instantly widened. The old man's name was Xia He and he was the head of the Xia family. Xia Zhu looked at the shocked expression on her grandfather's face. She could not help but rub her head, puzzled. Who is grandpa calling senior? Xia Zhu did not know. She really did not know. The head of the Xia family, Xia He, came back to his senses and quickly walked to Yili. He bowed deeply to Yili. Senior, I didn't expect to see you here. If it weren't for you, West Bay City might have been finished, Xia He said respectfully to Yili. Yili's handsome face didn't change at all. He slowly said to Xia He, there's nothing to say. I was just doing it casually. Xia Zhu looked at her grandfather and Yili in confusion. She had no idea what was going on. Chapter 686. Lu Luo disfigured Xia He did not expect Yili to appear in front of him. He clearly remembered how terrifying Yili was on the city wall outside the West Bay City. Grandpa, third uncle, do you know him? Xia Zhu seemed to have finally understood something and asked Xia He. Xiao Zhu, he's our savior. Alt? Xia Zhu was stunned. Obviously, she didn't expect her grandfather to say such words. She didn't understand. She really didn't understand why Yili became the savior of the West Bay City. Before she could ask, Lu Luo's voice entered her ears. He's the one who disfigured their faces. Lu Luo pointed at Yili and said. Lu Luo had already appeared in front of Yili with a large group of genetic warriors. These genetic warriors were undoubtedly the families of the girls who had been disfigured by Yili. When the dozens of genetic warriors saw Yili, they were scared out of their wits. Lu Luo was stunned. She looked at the frightened expressions of the dozens of genetic warriors and was puzzled. What is wrong with you? Lu Luo asked as he looked at the dozens of genetic warriors. However, how could the dozens of genetic warriors still say a complete sentence? They looked at Yili in horror. As senior, the dozens of genetic warriors began to feel extremely regretful. They wanted to cry. They really wanted to cry. Yili looked at Lu Luo indifferently. Why didn't you cherish the chance I gave you? Lu Luo's expression changed when he heard this. Before she could say anything, the dozens of genetic warriors beside her were shocked again. Miss Lu, your face? My face. Lu Luo did not feel anything at all. She touched her cheek and found that it was a little prickly. Suddenly, she realized something and quickly took out a mirror to look at herself. Alt? With this photo, shrill screams instantly filled the ears of the genetic warriors. This is my punishment for you. Yili looked at Lu Luo indifferently. The dozens of genetic warriors looked at each other before running away. This was because they knew that if they continued to stay there would only be one end for them, death. As for Xia Zhu, her pupils could not help but contract rapidly. Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming a 5th-tier chosen one. The system's voice suddenly appeared in Yili's mind. Yili's face was a little playful. No one else could become a 5th-tier chosen one as easily as him, could they? At this moment, Lu Luo had also fainted. For a woman to become like this was simply worse than death. Yili's handsome face didn't change at all. He slowly walked away. Xia He looked at Yili's slightly thin back and pondered for a few seconds. Then, he mustered his courage and said to Yili, Senior, please wait a moment. Yili stopped in his tracks. He really didn't know why Xia He stopped him. He revealed his side profile and slowly said, What is it? Senior, I know you're a supreme being. Last time, the zombies were only the first wave to attack West Bay City. They were controlled by the Dark Race. Please save West Bay City, Senior. When West Bay City was attacked by pure zombies, they already couldn't hold on, not to mention the Dark Race's attack. What? Are there still many zombies around this city? Yili asked Xia He lightly. Chapter 687. Please save West Bay City. Yili thought that if there were still many zombies he could consider it because his Apocalypse Legion had not been upgraded for a long time, except for the upgrade of Hongya not long ago. Yes, Senior. I think there might be hundreds of thousands of zombies attacking West Bay City in the next wave, Xia He said to Yili. Hearing this, Yili's handsome face lit up. More than 100,000 zombies should be enough for him to synthesize. All right. Yili agreed. Seeing that Yili agreed, Xia He's old face was instantly filled with joy and surprise. With Yili's help, West Bay City might not be destroyed by the zombies. At this moment, another group of genetic warriors ran over. Their realms were not low. Yili smiled to himself, thinking that they just didn't gonna stop, right? Dozens of genetic warriors stopped in front of Yili and bowed to him. Senior. Dozens of genetic warriors shouted in unison. Yili did not expect these people to do this. This was interesting. Old Lu, Old Ding, why are you here? Xiaohe looked at the two old men in the lead in surprise. These two elders were influential figures in the city. Old Lu was the head of the Lu family and Old Ding was the head of the Ding family. They were both 10th tier evolved beings. Lu Feng was about to speak when he saw Lu Luo on the ground. Luo. Lu Feng could not help but exclaim. Yili smiled faintly and slowly raised his palm. A white spiritual light slowly appeared in his palm and headed towards Lu Luo's face. Lu Luo's originally unsightly face instantly recovered. This scene stunned all the genetic warriors present. Woo! Lu Luo woke up and started to cry. My face, my face. Lu Luo used to be very beautiful, but her face was ruined now. You're the one who ruined my face. Lu Luo jumped up from the ground, looking like he wanted to fight Yili to the death. When the Lu family head Lu Feng saw this, he hurriedly blocked in front of her and berated Lu Luo. Luo, don't be rude to Senior. When Lu Luo saw that it was his grandfather who stopped her, she could not help but be angry. Grandpa, he already disfigured my face and now you're calling him Senior? Lu Luo gritted her teeth and stared at Lu Feng. Luo, your face has recovered, Lu Feng said quickly. Lu Luo was stunned. A few seconds later she took out the mirror. My face is really fine? Lu Luo was pleasantly surprised. Lu Feng let out a long breath. He thought that it was a good thing that he had stopped Luo. Otherwise things would have been bad. Luo, why aren't you apologizing to Senior? Lu Luo was shocked. She could not believe that her grandfather would say such a thing. Grandpa, she disfigured me just now. It's fine if you don't avenge me, but now you want me to apologize to him. In Lu Luo's opinion, this was too unreasonable. Don't be rude. He quickly glanced at Yili and was relieved to see that Yili's handsome face did not change at all. Humph, one won't apologize. Lu Luo said coldly. You. Lu Feng was furious. Yili was really not interested in watching this. He said lightly to Lu Feng, what is your purpose for coming here? Lu Feng hurriedly looked at Yili and said, Senior would like to ask you to save West Bay City. Chapter 688. They were all Lord-level zombies. Lu Feng and the others came for the same purpose. They wanted Yili to save the West Bay City. Old Lu, Senior has already agreed, Xiaohe said to Lu Feng. Really? Lu Feng looked at Xiaohe in surprise. Xiaohe pursed his lips. Of course. Would I lie to you? The zombies haven't attacked your West Bay City yet. Take me to a place with many zombies first. Yili looked at Lu Luo indifferently. He quite liked Lu Luo's temper. She was like a red pepper on a high mountain and a huge rock in the heart of the river. Me? Lu Luo didn't expect this. She looked at Yili in shock. Luo, do whatever Senior asks you to do, Lu Feng said to Lu Luo. Of course, Lu Luo was unwilling. However, he heard the conversation between Yili and her grandfather just now. They said that they wanted Yili to save the West Bay City. She did not understand how Yili could save the West Bay City. Got it, Grandpa. Then Lu Luo led Yili out of the West Bay City. After walking for a few minutes, Lu Luo looked at Yili with disdain. Hey, why are you going to a place with so many zombies? If I tell you to lead the way, then lead the way. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Lu Luo didn't know how to answer Yili's question. You. Alright, don't regret it when the time comes. Lu Luo stomped her feet. Most genetic warriors would naturally stay away from places with many zombies. She really couldn't understand why Yili had this request. Lu Luo brought Yili to a city. Before entering the city, Yili could feel the number of zombies. This is Zone D, the place with the most zombies. Lu Luo stared at Yili. She really wanted to see how Yili would regret it later. Let's go in, Yili said slowly. After saying that, Yili slowly walked towards Zone D. Lu Luo was stunned. She stared at Yili's back and could only follow him. As soon as the two of them stepped into Zone D, countless zombies rushed over. These zombies were like people who had starved for 10 days and 10 nights but had not yet starved to death. They rushed over one after another. Roar. Roar. Yili released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. Ada Hongye Yutong by Wawa and Long Yu. Suddenly the Apocalypse Legion rushed out. Lu Luo was shocked. She knew how the army appeared in the post-apocalyptic world, but before she realized what had happened, all the zombies that pounced on them were finished. How was that possible? Lu Luo seemed to have seen a scene that she would never see again, and she was greatly shocked. Hundreds of zombies fell to the ground just like that? She didn't even have time to see clearly. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water. He didn't choose to synthesize these zombies, but let these hundreds of zombies attract more zombies over. Master, it's been a long time since I met a powerful opponent, Ada said to Yi Li unhappily. Yi Li smiled faintly. There will be. Lu Luo looked at the Apocalypse Legion in a daze. Although they looked exactly like humans, her intuition told her that they were not humans. They're the Apocalypse Legion. They're all Lord-level zombies. What? Hearing this, Lu Luo instantly took 3 steps back. Lord-level zombies? As long as a zombie was above the 10th tier, it would be a Master-level zombie. Master-level zombies' eyes would turn black again, let alone Lord-level zombies. One could only tell whether they were zombies or humans by their aura. Chapter 689. Lu Luo was shocked to the extreme. Lu Luo was just guessing, but she didn't expect it to be true. They were all Lord-level zombies? At this moment, no words could describe the shock in Lu Luo's heart. After all, these were Lord-level zombies. However, Lu Luo thought that Yi Li was lying to her because how could they all be Lord-level zombies? Yi Li naturally knew what Lu Luo was thinking, his handsome face indifferent. Roar, roar. Suddenly, countless terrifying zombie roars entered Lu Luo's ears. Lu Luo's expression changed. She looked in front of her and then was scared out of her wits. Lu Luo took a few steps back, unable to utter a complete sentence. Thousands of zombies pounced over. Yi Li looked at the thousands of zombies with disappointment. He had thought that there were many zombies in Zone D, but it seemed that he was wrong. Lu Luo looked at the disappointed expression on Yi Li's face and couldn't help but be even more shocked. She would never have thought that Yi Li could actually look disappointed. What do we do? Lu Luo looked at Yi Li. She didn't want to die. She really didn't want to die. However, facing such a huge number of zombies, she felt that there was no way out. Are you afraid? Yi Li looked at Lu Luo indifferently. Lu Luo really didn't understand why Yi Li asked this question. Of course she was afraid. There were so many zombies who wouldn't be afraid. Don't be afraid. With me here, these zombies are not a threat, Yi Li said slowly. Lu Luo really did not know why there was such an arrogant person in this world. In the past, let alone meeting such an arrogant person, she had never even heard of such a person. Roar, roar. Thousands of zombies rushed over. When the zombies were about 10 meters away from Yi Li, the Apocalypse Legion all shot out. Lu Luo looked at the scene in front of her. She originally thought that it was the most shocking moment in her life, but now it seemed that not only was she wrong, but she was so completely wrong. Because when the Mode army faced thousands of zombies, it was as easy as crushing dry weeds. The zombies kept falling. What shocked Lu Luo even more was that the number of zombies was decreasing rapidly, but none of them died. Lu Luo did not understand what was going on. She really did not understand. Moreover, many zombies started to attack other zombies. Her pupils began to constrict rapidly. She felt that her heart was about to jump out of her throat, and she even held her breath. At that moment, thousands of zombies suddenly became one. Well, Lu Luo looked at the zombie in front of her in horror. She would never have thought that thousands of zombies would suddenly become one zombie. There was no change in Yi Li's expression. This zombie was obviously not qualified to synthesize with any zombie in the Apocalypse Legion. He put this zombie into the system space. Without thinking too much, Yi Li asked the Apocalypse Legion to continue luring the zombies. At this moment, Lu Luo was petrified on the spot and could not recover for a long time. Yi Li looked at Lu Luo indifferently and said slowly, I remember telling you never to be shocked because everything I do is enough to shock you for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 690. The 8th tier Vajra Demon Ape. Lu Luo originally thought that Yi Li was courting death by asking her to bring him to a place with many zombies. But now she only felt a burning pain on her face. If she didn't believe that the Apocalypse Legion was full of Lord-level zombies, she had to believe it now. Let's take a walk, Yi Li said lightly. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li slowly walked forward. Lu Luo had no choice but to follow closely behind. Yi Li and Lu Luo walked slowly on the streets of Zone D. From time to time, a few zombies would come over to give them warmth. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the streets of City D began to shake as if there was an earthquake. Yi Li looked straight ahead and saw a Vajra Demon Ape walking over. This Vajra Demon Ape was in the 8th tier and was 30 feet tall. Vajra Demon Ape. Lu Luo's fair face was filled with shock. The Vajra demon ape was too terrifying for the genetic warriors in the West Bay city. Yili sighed secretly. He had already told Lu Luo not to be afraid, but why didn't Lu Luo believe him? Humans? The Vajra demon ape was stunned. It clearly didn't expect to see humans in Zone D. Immediately, the Vajra demon ape started to sneer. Since 2 humans had appeared in Zone D, it meant that he could have a full meal. Humans, should I say that your luck is bad or good? The 8th tier Vajra demon ape looked at Yi Li and Lu Luo playfully. Yi Li smiled calmly when he heard that. He looked at the Vajra demon ape indifferently and slowly said, "We're lucky but you're not." The Vajra demon ape was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Humans, aren't you afraid of me? In the Vajra demon ape's opinion, Yi Li and Lu Luo should be running away now while he could play like an eagle catching a chick. However, Yi Li and Lu Luo were not running away at all, which made him unable to understand no matter how he thought about it. You're just an 8th tier dark race member. You're pitifully weak in front of me, Yi Li. Why should I be afraid of you? Yi Li looked at the 8th tier Vajra demon ape mockingly. When the 8th tier Vajra demon ape heard this, it could not help but be furious. Humans, I originally wanted to let you live a little longer, but no, it seems that there's no need. As soon as he finished speaking, the 8th tier Vajra demon ape rushed towards Yi Li and Lu Luo Meng at a very fast speed. Of course, Lu Luo was scared. The Vajra demon ape tribe had killed countless genetic warriors in the West Bay city. She was shocked. She couldn't help but look at Yi Li to see how he was going to deal with it. After all, Yi Li's Lord-level zombies weren't around. However, to Lu Luo's surprise, there was no change in Yi Li's expression. It was as if he did not see the 8th tier Vajra demon ape charging towards them. Lu Luo really didn't know what to say. How could Yi Li not be afraid? Could it be, was he really not afraid of death? Lu Luo didn't believe it. She knew that Yi Li must be a person who was extremely afraid of death. Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, the 8th tier Vajra demon ape was only a few steps away from them. She realized that there was still no change in Yi Li's expression. However, she saw Yi Li slowly raise a finger. Lu Luo felt that Yi Li must be crazy. Could it be that he wanted to use one finger to defeat the 8th tier Vajra demon ape? Swish. Before Lu Luo could notice what was going on, a wind-breaking voice entered her ears. Chapter 691. You've only got 1 second to live. Lu Luo naturally didn't believe that Yi Li could defeat the 8th tier Vajra demon ape with just one finger. However, when a wind-breaking sound was heard, Lu Luo looked at the 8th tier Vajra demon ape. What she saw stunned her. She was truly stunned. This was because the 8th tier Vajra demon ape had already fallen heavily to the ground. How is this possible? Lu Luo hurriedly rubbed her eyes. She really could not believe that this was true, but no matter how she rubbed, the outcome would not change. She looked at the corpse of the 8th tier Vajra demon ape in a daze. How could she have thought that a Vajra demon ape would die just like that? She originally thought that Yi Li relied on the Apocalypse Legion, but now it seemed that not only was she wrong, but she was also wrong to the extreme. Roar! Roar! At this moment, Lu Luo suddenly heard the roars of countless zombies. She looked around and saw the Apocalypse Legion rushing over with countless zombies. There were so many of them that it looked like a dense black cloud was approaching. Is Lu Luo was already extremely regretful. She regretted bringing Yi Li to Zone D. At this moment, her entire body was trembling. Yi Li ignored the fear on Lu Luo's face. He asked the Apocalypse Legion to take action. Then, he opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize zombies. A moment later, the system notification appeared in Yi Li's mind. Ding. Yutong has been upgraded to a Tier 2 Lord-level zombie. Yi Li smiled faintly. Lai thought that his gains from this trip to Zone D were not bad. Yutong had also been upgraded to a Tier 2 Lord-level zombie. Huh. Yi Li suddenly heard some movements. He activated his heavenly spirit eyes and looked forward. Lai discovered more than 10 Vajra demon apes in front of him. Something was wrong. Yi Li instantly knew that something was wrong. He didn't understand why these Vajra demon apes came to Zone D. Let's go over, Yi Li said calmly to Lu Luo. Where are we going? Lu Luo asked softly. Yi Li didn't answer and walked forward slowly. Lu Luo did not dare to stay where she was and quickly followed. A few seconds later, more than 10 Vajra demon apes appeared in front of Yi Li and Lu Luo. Oh my god! Lu Luo was shocked. Just one Vajra demon ape had already frightened her, let alone more than 10 Vajra demon apes. She hurriedly looked at Yi Li and realized that there was no change in Yi Li's expression at all. For some reason she was no longer afraid when she saw this. Humans. More than 10 Vajrademon apes were all in the 8th tier. They were all very stunned. They really did not expect to meet a human here. Tell me, why did you come to Zone D? Yili glanced at the dozen or so 8th tier Vajrademon apes. The dozen or so 8th tier Vajrademon apes were stunned for a moment before they all laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Human, it's fine if you don't run when you see us, but you actually dare to question us. Are you tired of living? An 8th tier Vajrademon ape said proudly to Yili. Yili smiled faintly and slowly said to the Vajrademon ape who spoke, "Answer me. Otherwise you can only live for 1 second." As soon as these words were spoken, the dozen or so 8th tier Vajrademon apes were all furious. Human, since you said that we can only live for a second, well, let you die first. As soon as he finished speaking, an 8th tier Vajrademon ape rushed over. Yili really didn't understand why these 8th tier Vajrademon apes chose to commit suicide. Wasn't it good to be alive? Swish. Dozens of wind-breaking sounds were heard again. Chapter 692. Senior, what realm are you in? As dozens of wind-breaking sounds were heard, only one of the dozen 8th tier Vajrademon apes was left. The remaining 8th tier Vajrademon ape opened its eyes for the biggest time in history. It would never have thought that such a scene would happen. Luluo was also shocked to the extreme. The expression on her face seemed to have frozen. More than 10 8th tier Vajrademon apes were instantly killed. She did not even see how Yili attacked. Yili looked indifferently at the remaining 8th tier Vajrademon ape and waved at it. Come over. When you face me, Yili, don't ever choose to resist, Yili said slowly to the 8th tier Vajrademon ape. The 8th tier Vajrademon ape was already extremely afraid. Its entire body was trembling violently. Ilo, could it dare to resist? It could only brace itself and walk over. My lord. The 8th tier Vajrademon ape's voice was trembling. Tell me, why did you come to Zone D? Yili looked at the 8th tier Vajrademon ape. Sir, we are here to gather zombies to attack the West Base City, the 8th tier Vajrademon ape hurriedly replied. Actually, Yili had already guessed it, but he still wanted to hear it from the 8th tier Vajrademon ape. Where are the zombies you gathered? Yili asked slowly. Sir, there don't seem to be many zombies in Zone D. The 8th tier Vajrademon ape was about to cry. It only wanted Yili to spare its life. Hearing that, Yili smiled to himself. How could there be no zombies in Zone D? It was just that he had synthesized all these zombies. Otherwise, how could Yutong be upgraded to a tier 2 lord level zombie? My lord, I've said my piece. Will you let me go? The 8th tier Vajrademon ape was from the dark race, but even if he was from the dark race, it didn't mean that he wasn't naive. Letting you go? You're thinking too much. Yili looked at the 8th tier Vajrademon ape calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, the 8th tier Vajrademon ape's pupils constricted rapidly. Alf? A loud shout from the 8th tier Vajrademon ape sounded. Its life would disappear from this world forever. You can go back first. They'll go ahead and take a look, Yili said to Luluo. Luluo's expression changed when she heard this. How could she dare to go back? Senior, I don't dare, Luluo said. Yili sighed to himself. Women were troublesome. No matter what, she was still a tier 5 evolved being. Why was she so timid? Then follow me. A hint of joy appeared on Luluo's pale face. Then Yili, the Apocalypse Legion, and Luluo walked forward. During this period, he asked the Apocalypse Legion to gather information. Senior, can I ask what realm you are in? Luluo's fair face was filled with curiosity. She was too curious. Yili stopped in his tracks and looked at Luluo indifferently. Do you really want to know my realm? Luluo was a little afraid. She quickly shook her head. No. She was afraid that Yili would be displeased and kill her. What's there to lie about? Since you want to know, I'll tell you. My realm isn't high. Luluo was shocked. Not high. She thought that it was impossible. Just as she was about to continue asking, Yili spoke first. I'm just a 5th tier chosen one. What? Luluo gasped and looked at Yili in horror. Chapter 693, Giant Spirit, a 5th tier chosen one? At this moment, there were absolutely no words that could describe the shock in Luluo's heart. A 5th tier chosen one was an existence that she could never hope to reach in her entire life. However, she had no choice but to believe it. Suddenly, Luluo felt that she was too ridiculous. Previously, she was still acting superior in front of Yili. Although tier 5 evolved beings and tier 5 chosen ones were both in tier 5, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. There was no comparison. All of a sudden, the way Lu Luo looked at Yi Li started to change. From the previous mockery and fear, it became extreme respect. At the same time, she also understood why her grandfather was so afraid of Yi Li. Why? Is my realm shocking to you? Yi Li looked at Lu Luo indifferently. Lu Luo looked at Yi Li's face. What a handsome face. A fifth-tier chosen one. This suffocating pressure. Lu Luo suddenly felt that Yi Li was literally shining. Yi Li and Lu Luo walked out of Zone D. There was no movement from the Apocalypse Legion. During this time, he kept seeing a large number of zombies heading toward a certain place. He was not in a hurry to synthesize these zombies. This was called a pig-rearing strategy. Senior, these zombies are probably going to attack the West Bay City, Lu Luo said to Yi Li. How could Yi Li not know that these zombies were going to attack the West Bay City? Zombies, let's go. The West Bay City is going to be ours soon. A burly dark race member holding a giant axe stood on a large rock and shouted. This burly dark race member was actually not weak, reaching the 10th tier. This dark race member was a giant spirit. Lu Luo had never seen a giant spirit before. Although they were dozens of meters apart, the suffocating pressure had already spread over. Her originally fair face turned pale. Do you believe that I can kill him in an instant? Yi Li suddenly said to Lu Luo. Lu Luo was stunned. She didn't expect Yi Li to suddenly say such a thing. Senior, Yi Li smiled. If you hesitate, it means that you don't trust me, Yi Li. Lu Luo was indeed a little unwilling to believe that Yi Li could kill a 10th-tier giant spirit from such a distance. If Lu Luo knew the strength of a 5th-tier chosen one, she would definitely not say such ridiculous words. Swish. Suddenly, a supreme sword chi burst out, and the space seemed to be cut apart by this terrifying sword chi. Yi Li's ancient dragon abyss sword embryo was already at the 5th level and could release sword chi at will. The 10th-tier giant spirit didn't even have time to react before he was cut in half. Even until he died, he didn't know how he died. Oh my god. Lu Luo covered her mouth. She felt that she was a complete idiot. Why did she doubt Yi Li? Yi Li smiled faintly. His handsome face was as calm as water. To him this was as easy as a pie. Master, all the zombies are moving toward West Bay City. The Apocalypse Legion all used telepathy to tell Yi Li what they knew. Yi Li thought that they were going to attack the Bay City. Let's go back, Yi Li said. When Lu Luo heard this, it was as if she had been reborn. Her fair face was filled with joy. Yes, Senior. With that, Lu Luo walked towards the Bay City. Chapter 694. Get your grandfather to see me. Yi Li looked at Lu Luo's back indifferently. He felt that Lu Luo was too naive. Stop, Yi Li said slowly. Lu Luo was stunned when she heard this. She turned around and her fair face was a little shocked. She thought that her senior wouldn't regret it, right? Senior, didn't you say you were going back just now? Lu Luo looked at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled. How long do you think it will take for us to go back like this? A day, Lu Luo replied. Yi Li shook his head slightly. Come and give me your hand. Lu Luo blushed when she heard this. She looked at Yi Li with a red face. Senior, what are you trying to do? If I tell you to come over, come over. Lu Luo didn't dare to stay any longer. She hurriedly walked over and placed her hand on Yi Li's. In an instant, her cheek was as red as a red apple, extremely tempting. Immediately after, Yi Li activated swift steps and his speed reached a shocking level. Before Lu Luo could react, they had already appeared in the main city of the West Bay City. Well, Lu Luo was shocked. She really could not understand how she had arrived at the main city of the West Bay City in an instant. Don't be shocked. Go back and ask your grandfather to meet me at the Xia family, Yi Li said slowly. With that, Yi Li disappeared on the spot. Yi Li, who was still in front of her a second ago, suddenly disappeared in the next second. Lu Luo was stunned. A few seconds later, she came back to her senses and thought about what Yi Li said. She did not dare to be negligent and quickly walked towards the Lu family. When the Xia family's disciples saw that Yi Li had returned, they were all shocked. Senior, you're back. Xiazhu came over. After reaching Yi Li's side, Xiazhu said to Yi Li, "He'll tell Grandpa." As soon as she finished speaking, Xiazhu hurriedly ran in. Yi Li slowly walked into the Xia family's hall and found a random chair to sit on. Not long after, Xia He and the elders of the Xia family walked in quickly. Senior, you're finally back. When the head of the Xia family, Xia He, saw Yi Li, he heaved a sigh of relief. In his opinion, Yi Li was now the pillar of the West Bay City. Without Yi Li, the West Bay City would definitely be occupied by the Dark Race. Senior, we have observed a large number of zombies and Dark Race members heading toward West Bay City. Xia looked at Yi Li. I already know, Yi Li said calmly. When the high-leveled evolved beings of the Xia family heard Yi Li's words, they felt even more at ease. They thought that since their senior already knew, he must have made sufficient preparations. At this moment, the head of the Lu family, accompanied by the elders of the Lu family, and the head of the Ding family, accompanied by the elders of the Ding family, all walked in quickly. Senior, we're here. Lu Feng and Ding De said respectfully to Yi Li. Senior, we are here on behalf of all the genetic warriors in the West Bay City, Ding De said. Ding De was the head of the Ding family and was also a 10th-tier evolved being. After all the genetic warriors in the hall sat down, Xia stood up and said to the genetic warriors, everyone should know how difficult it is for our West Bay City this time. There are probably 100,000 zombies here. There are also the Vajra Demon Ape clan and the Giant Spirit clan. The two dark race clans are leading the troops. The genetic warriors in the hall looked at each other. What should they do when such a massive force came to attack? Chapter 695. Attack the West Bay City. Yi Li shook his head slightly. He really did not know why these people were afraid. Are you all very afraid? Yi Li asked slowly. Everyone in the hall was shocked. There were 100,000 zombies as well as the Vajra Demon Ape clan and the Giant Spirit clan. Who wouldn't be afraid? That's right. What's there to be afraid of? With Senior around, the dark race and zombies are all trash, Xia said with a smile. After some analysis, everyone in the hall already knew Yi Li's conclusion. He would deal with whatever came his way. 3 days later, the dark race and zombies started attacking the outer city of the West Bay City. Yi Li stood on the outer city wall and looked indifferently at the ants-like zombies below. His handsome face showed a playful smile. There were so many zombies. It was enough for him to synthesize. The army of the West Bay City began to attack with laser guns and cannons. Airplanes were flying in the sky and tanks were running on the ground. However, the Vajra Demon Ape and the Giant Spirit were not weak. The tank was useless in front of them. Of course, the genetic warriors on the outer city wall could not go down. If they went down first, there was no doubt that there would only be one outcome: death. There was no possibility of survival. Yi Li released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. Go, the Apocalypse Legion. Roar. Following Yi Li's order, Ada, Hongye, Yutong, Bai Wawa and Long Yu began to attack. What happened next amazed everyone. Boom. The Apocalypse Legion began to knock countless zombies to the ground. They wouldn't kill these zombies. Yi Li couldn't synthesize dead zombies. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind to synthesize these zombies. The terrifying thing about the super synthesized system was that Yi Li could order the synthesized zombies to attack other zombies. In this way, there would be more and more zombies and fewer zombies that didn't belong to him. The genetic warriors on the outer city wall were all dumbfounded as they watched the scene in front of them. They dared to swear that they were 100 times more shocked than last time. They really couldn't imagine why such a terrifying person existed in this world. Don't think too much. Actually, they're not humans but zombies, Yi Li said slowly. What? When the genetic warriors on the outer city wall heard this, they all gasped. They were all zombies? This. At this moment, no words could describe the shock in their hearts. Senior, if they are zombies, then you, the head of the Xia family, Xia looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li smiled faintly, his jade-like face showing no ripple of emotion. His eyes fixed straight ahead as he slowly spoke. I'm a human. I have a small nickname, Demon King Yi Li. As soon as these words were spoken, the genetic warriors could not help but be even more shocked. Demon King Yi Li? What a domineering title. As Yi Li synthesized more and more zombies, the number of zombies on the other side decreased. However, the number of zombies was too large and they couldn't be killed. If they could be killed, the Apocalypse Legion would all use their heaven-grade skills. What would happen next could be imagined. Boom. Terrifying explosions continued to sound. Many of the zombies that Yi Li had synthesized had been eliminated by the Vajra Demon Ape clan and the Giant Spirit clan. Yi Li's heart ached. These ants actually dared to kill his zombies? Since that was the case, he needed to do something. Chapter 696. The terrifying slash. When the genetic warriors on the outer city wall heard that Yi Li was a human, they all heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he was a human, they were relieved. They heard that there was a profession called corpse controller in some places that could control zombies. They thought that Yi Li should be a corpse controller. Just as the genetic warriors were looking at the battlefield below, Yi Li suddenly jumped up and appeared in midair. Moreover, a terrifying long sword appeared in his hand. This sword was even a supreme divine weapon, the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword. The moment Yi Li took out the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword from the system, dragon and sword roars kept ringing. It was as if a single glance at such a divine sword could send one into a cycle of reincarnation. The corners of Yi Li's lips curled up slightly, and a cold smile appeared on his handsome face. He activated the 5th level of the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword embryo. In an instant the entire world fell silent. The sword intent of the 5th level of the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword embryo was too terrifying. The Vajra Demon Ape clan and the Giant Spirit clan looked at Yi Li at the same time. They were behind the zombies and only a small portion of them were in front. Their eyes widened as if they had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. However, Yi Li raised the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword in his hand and slowly said, "Sky, Severing Sword." When the divine level skill, the Heaven Severing Sword, was used, its power was definitely not something that could be described with words. Yi Li hadn't used the Heaven Severing Sword for a long time. Later on he obtained 2 more skills, but they were all integrated into the Heaven Severing Sword. He thought that he shouldn't fuse skills into the Heaven Severing Sword anymore. He needed a few more skills. The Supreme Sword beam flew towards the Vajra Demon Apes and the Giant Spirits at an extremely fast speed. Boom! An earth-shattering bang sounded. The area where the Vajra Demon Apes and the Giant Spirits were located was surrounded by an intense white light. When the white light disappeared, a 100-meter deep pit appeared in the area where the 2 dark race clans were. As for the Vajra Demon Apes and the Giant Spirits, they were all melted into nothingness, not leaving a single corpse behind. Too terrifying, too terrifying. The genetic warriors and troops on the outer city wall froze like clay sculptures. They were unable to recover for a long time. They dared to swear that they would never forget what they had seen today. Yi Li's expression was very calm. He put the ancient Dragon Abyss Sword into the system space. He thought that after the Vajra Demon Ape clan and the Giant Spirit clan were eliminated, he would be able to synthesize zombies in peace. He activated swift steps and appeared on the outer city wall. The genetic warriors knew very well that they would not be shocked no matter what they saw now. This was because they had seen the most terrifying scene in the world. "Tell your people to stop," Yi Li said slowly. Xiaohe was shocked. He did not understand why Yi Li did this, but he did not dare to ask further. He knew that as long as he angered Yi Li, their entire West Base city would be gone. He could only order the army to stop. After the army stopped, Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize zombies. Batch synthesis began. Bai Wawa has been upgraded to a Tier 2 Lord level zombie. Long Yu has been upgraded to a Tier 2 Lord level zombie. 2ii. After Yi Li synthesized all the zombies, the Apocalypse Legion members except for Ada had all become Tier 3 Lord level zombies. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super large treasure chest. At that moment, the voice of the system echoed in Yi Li's mind. Chapter 697. Apocalypse Legion had all become 5th tier Lord level zombies. Yi Li's handsome face lit up. Not only had he synthesized so many zombies, but he had also obtained a super treasure chest. He was simply too lucky. Without thinking too much, he opened the super treasure chest. Heaven-defying level skill, Heaven Sword technique obtained. 10 zombie Lord level potions obtained. Yi Li was stunned. Of course, he knew what a heaven-defying level skill was, but these 10 Lord level zombie potions. He hurriedly checked the effects of the zombie Lord level potion. After administering to the zombies, it can upgrade them, suitable for Lord level zombies. Upon seeing this, Yi Li's face showed a playful look. Then he gave the 10 zombie Lord level potions to Hongye, Yutong, Bai Wawa and Long Yu. A few seconds later they all became 5th tier Lord level zombies. The zombies in the Apocalypse Legion had all upgraded to 5th tier Lord level zombies. Yi Li was now a 5th tier chosen one. Ding. Host, do you cultivate the Heaven Sword technique? Yes. Start to cultivate Heaven Sword technique, 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. Heaven Sword technique has been successfully cultivated. Yi Li thought that he had really made a killing this time. What he didn't expect was that the system's voice appeared in his mind again. Ding. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a chance to draw a random prize. Yi Li shook his head slightly. He thought that when luck came it was like chewing gum and couldn't be stopped. Then he used this lottery chance. The virtual pointer began to spin on the roulette wheel, and a few seconds later the pointer stopped spinning. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure map. Hearing the system notification, Yi Li smiled lightly. It was another super treasure map. Yi activated the super treasure map. Then the coordinates appeared in Yi's mind. The coordinates in his mind were quite a distance away. At this moment, the genetic warriors and troops on the outer city wall looked at Yi in horror. They really did not know how to describe how terrifying Yi was. Senior Xia looked at Yi in shock. He no longer knew what to say. We've already won. There's no need to stay here, Yi said slowly to Xia. With that, Yi disappeared from the outer city wall. When he appeared again, Yi was already at the Xia family's house. In the Xia family's living room, he slowly put a grape into his mouth, his handsome face calm and composed. Not long after, the head of the Xia family and the important figures of the West Base City arrived at the main hall. They all looked at Yi with reverence, afraid that they would offend Yi at all. Senior, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, our West Base City would be finished. You are our savior, Xia said to Yi respectfully. Yi smiled casually. He thought that Xiao's strength was not good, but his flattery skills were indeed not bad. I'm leaving the West Base City, Yi said as he glanced at the genetic warriors in the hall. As soon as these words were spoken, all the genetic warriors in the hall were stunned. They naturally knew that an existence like Yi did not belong here, but they did not expect him to leave so quickly. I remember that a few girls' faces were disfigured. Let them come here, Yi said slowly. The elders in the hall of the Xia family were overjoyed because they were the grandpas of those girls. Chapter 698. Leaving the West Base City not long after, the girls who were disfigured by Yi arrived at the Xia family's living room. These girls were all Tier 4 evolved beings. They didn't know who Yi was, but the murderer who disfigured them was right in front of them. As the saying went, when enemies met, their eyes blazed with hate. These Tier 4 evolved being girls immediately charged towards Yi. The girls' actions were naturally noticed by the genetic warriors in the hall. They hurriedly stopped them. Do you hate me very much? Yi looked at the girls in front of him indifferently. When the girls heard this, they gritted their teeth and looked like they wanted to eat Yi. When the genetic warriors in the hall saw the girls' expressions, they were all scared out of their wits. They hurriedly looked at Yi and heaved a sigh of relief when they realized that there was no change in Yi's expression. Yi smiled and said lightly to the girls in front of him, "Never hate me because no one in this world can hate me." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi raised his palm and a gentle white spiritual light shot towards the faces of the girls. Then a miracle happened. The girls' faces were recovering at a visible speed. I am leaving. After the wounds on the girls' faces had completely recovered, Yi disappeared from the hall. Before the genetic warriors in the hall could react, Yi had already disappeared. Their expressions froze. I wonder what good deeds I've done in my previous life. Such a terrifying existence actually descended on our West Base City, Xia said heavily. All the genetic warriors in the Xia family's hall thought so. They swore that they would never forget Yi in their lives. Huh. A girl was suddenly shocked. She stared at herself in the mirror in a daze. She realized that her appearance had returned to its original state, and she became even prettier. Then the other girls looked at themselves in the mirror. They were all stunned. Seeing this, the head of the Xia family, Xia, could not help but take a deep breath. A few seconds later he slowly said, "We want to build a temple for Senior and offer incense every day. Who agrees and who opposes? Who among the genetic warriors in the hall would object?" Without Yi, their West Base City would have been finished long ago. Yi followed the coordinates for 10 days and finally saw the base city. The base city was not big. He slowly walked into the base city because the coordinates were in this base city. After entering the base city, Yi realized that genetic warriors, armies and zombies were already fighting in the base city. Roar. Roar. Air. The roars of zombies and the screams of humans kept entering Yi's ears. The army in the base city was only composed of ordinary people. When ordinary people faced zombies, they were naturally no match for them. From time to time, soldiers would fall. Among those zombies, a female zombie stood out the most. The fact that this female zombie could devour people made one's scalp tingle. Yi looked at the female zombie indifferently. Of course, he knew the female zombie not far away. She was Bone Maiden from the Apocalypse Legion. One would search high and low only to find it when one least expected to. Attack. Yi said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, the Apocalypse Legion began to attack. Chapter 699. Lung Shui, disciple of the Four Weapons Hall. When the Apocalypse Legion attacked, Yi also began to attack, leaving only an afterimage on the spot. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Bone Maiden. How could Bone Maiden break free from his grasp? He placed her into the system space. Then Yi Li began to use the soul summoning banner. Not long after, Bone Girl's 3 souls and 7 spirits appeared in front of Yi Li. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize Bone Girl's 3 souls and 7 spirits. A few seconds later, the Bone Maiden appeared in front of Yi Li. Master? Bone Maiden looked at Yi Li in surprise. Yi Li nodded. He found another zombie of the Apocalypse Legion. It wouldn't be long before he found all the zombies in the Apocalypse Legion back. At that moment, thousands of zombies had been killed by the Apocalypse Legion. Yi Li synthesized these zombies. All the genetic warriors and troops in White Cloud Bay City looked at Yi Li and the Apocalypse Legion in shock. Senior, are you a senior from the 4 Weapons Hall? A Tier 4 evolved being asked Yi Li carefully. For Weapons Hall? Yi Li was a little stunned. Could it be that he was already not far from the 4 Weapons Hall? Didn't they say that White Cloud Bay City was occupied by zombies? Where are the zombies? An extremely cold voice entered everyone's ears. The genetic warriors and the army raised their heads and looked in the direction of the voice. A white-robed woman appeared in everyone's vision. It's Lady Leng Shui. Leng Shui was a disciple of the 4 Weapons Hall. She was in charge of the safety of White Cloud Bay City. When everyone saw that Leng Shui had arrived, their hearts that were in their throats relaxed. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui and realized that she was a Tier 3 transcender. At her age, she was definitely a rare genius. Lady Leng Shui, they saved us, a genetic warrior said to Leng Shui. Leng Shui was stunned. She looked at Yi Li and the Apocalypse Legion. Obviously, she didn't know Yi Li and the Apocalypse Legion. What sect are you from? Leng Shui walked in front of Yi Li and said coldly. Leng Shui acted as if she had no emotions. Her face was terrifyingly cold. No sect, Yi Li said slowly. Leng Shui stared at Yi Li and asked, which big family are you from? I, Yi Li, and the Apocalypse Legion, don't belong to any family. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui leisurely and said. Leng Shui could not help but frown when she heard this. Yi Li smiled and slowly said to Leng Shui, one don't like you looking at me like that. What? All the genetic warriors and soldiers in White Cloud Bay City were shocked. They had never expected Yi Li to say such a thing. What did you say? Leng Shui's already cold face became even colder. I didn't expect you to be deaf. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui indifferently. Leng Shui stared at Yi Li. Suddenly she raised her palm and hit Yi Li fiercely. Yi Li really did not understand why so many ants always chose to attack him. The pupils of the genetic warriors and the army rapidly constricted because they realized that Yi Li had no intention of defending or dodging. In their opinion, Leng Shui's palm would hit Yi Li without any suspense. Unfortunately, they had all miscalculated one thing. Just as Leng Shui's palm was only a line away from Yi Li raised 2 fingers. Chapter 700, Go tell the 4 Weapons Hall that I, Yi Li, have arrived. Leng Shui was also a little stunned. Initially, since Yi Li could say such arrogant words, he should have some ability. But now, it seemed that not only was she wrong but she was also so completely wrong. She knew that as long as her palm landed on Yi Li's body, Yi Li would either die or be injured. Unfortunately, she would never have thought that when her palm was only a thin line away from Yi Li, her palm was caught by Yi Li's fingers. What? The genetic warriors and soldiers of White Cloud Bay City were all dumbfounded. They had originally thought that Yi Li would be slapped without any suspense. Leng Shui was even more shocked. She stared at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled lightly. His handsome face was calm as he slowly said, Someone like you dares to attack me, Yi Li? Leng Shui's pupils constricted when she heard this. You. Ever since she was born, Leng Shui had been as cold as ice. She looked at Yi Li coldly. You're a disciple of the 4 Weapons Hall, right? Go back and tell the 4 Weapons Hall that Demon King Yi Li has arrived. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui indifferently and said. The name Demon King Yi Li was naturally an unfamiliar name to Leng Shui. Leng Shui stared at Yi Li's face. She had never seen someone as arrogant as Yi Li. Was this person prepared to challenge the dignity of the 4 Weapons Hall? Do you think you are qualified to say such words to the 4 Weapons Hall? Leng Shui said coldly. As soon as she finished speaking, Leng Shui wanted to pull her hand out, but she realized that Yi Li's 2 fingers were like iron pincers holding her down. She couldn't pull her hand out even if she used all her strength. What's there to struggle about? You're just a mere Tier 3 transcender. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui mockingly. When Leng Shui heard this, she became even more furious. She could not remember how many years it had been since she had been angry. Looking at Leng Shui's exasperated face, Yi Li secretly smiled, thinking that this cold girl was really too funny. Go ahead. With that, Yi Li let go of Leng Shui's hand. When she let go of Leng Shui's hand, Leng Shui took a few steps back to stabilize herself due to the impact of the force. She stared at Yi Li. I swear you will regret it. Leng Shui gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled leisurely. I will never regret it. Leng Shui's body heaved violently. She knew that she was definitely not Yi Li's match. A few seconds later, Leng Shui left the place. White Cloud Bay City was about the same size as Annan Bay City. Not long after, the entire White Cloud Bay City knew the name Demon King Yi Li. At this moment, everyone in White Cloud Bay City was talking about Demon King Yi Li. They said that Yi Li wanted to challenge the Four Weapons Hall. They said that Demon King Yi Li must be crazy. Yes, everyone in White Cloud Bay City thought so. Those who dared to challenge the Four Weapons Hall had never been born yet. The Four Weapons Hall was one of the super factions in the Mystic Land. It consists of 4 halls: knife, spear, axe, and rod. Leng Shui was a disciple of the Spear Hall. Of course, the people in White Cloud Bay City didn't know that the hall master of the Knife Hall, Li Chengquan, had been killed by Yi Li, so had the 12 Grand Elders of the Four Weapons Hall. It could be said that the current Knife Hall was just a paper tiger and could pose no threat at all. The other 3 hall masters were all 8th-tier chosen ones. Yi Li walked slowly on the streets of White Cloud Bay City. Although his name had spread to every corner of White Cloud Bay City, most people had never seen him before. Chapter 701. You're already blind, young Master Lin? I heard that a person called Demon King Yi Li has come to White Cloud Bay City to challenge the Four Weapons Hall. A coquettish woman said to a young man. This young man was very handsome. He was a 7th-tier evolved being. Young Master Lin's name was Lin Ting, and he was the young master of the Lin family, the #1 family in White Cloud Bay City. Lin Ting smiled coldly when he heard this. His slightly handsome face looked extremely disdainful. What Demon King Yi Li? He's just a small fry. He actually dares to challenge the Four Weapons Hall. He really doesn't know his place. Yi Li naturally heard Lin Ting's words, but he really didn't want to bother with an ant like Lin Ting. It was a pity that the tree wanted to be quiet, but the wind would not stop. Yi Li and Lin Ting fought against each other. Of course he would not choose to make way for Lin Ting. Otherwise would he still be the Demon King Yi Li? Lin Ting was an influential figure in White Cloud Bay City. It could be said that from his birth until now, other than the elders in his family, he had never given way to anyone else. Brat, are you blind? How dare you block young Master Lin's path? The coquettish woman beside Lin Ting shouted at Yi Li. When the passers-by saw this, they all stopped in their tracks. They had never seen anyone dare to block Lin Ting's path. Who is this person? How dare he block young Master Lin's path? Does he want to die? Nothing is certain. He probably wants to commit suicide because his life isn't going his way. That's right. I think so too. However, he didn't dare to commit suicide, so he could only ask young Master Lin to help him. Otherwise, why would he block young Master Lin's path? The passers-by looked at Yi Li with pity. They knew that Yi Li would end up in a terrible state. Get out of the way. Yi Li looked at Lin Ting indifferently. As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. They would never have thought that Yi Li would say such a thing. Brat, don't you know young Master Lin? The coquettish woman looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li's handsome face was calm. He looked at the coquettish woman indifferently and slowly said, I remember just now you said that I'm blind? So what if I did? The coquettish woman's face that was covered in foundation looked extremely disdainful. Yi Li shook his head slightly. Didn't you realize that you are blind? The coquettish woman was stunned when she heard this. She felt that Yi Li was really too baffling. She smiled coldly at Yi Li. Brat, I'm not blind. How can I see you, you idiot? As soon as the coquettish woman finished speaking, a scream sounded. Everyone was shocked. They hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice and could not help but gasp. The bewitching woman's eyes were already bleeding scarlet blood. It was really terrifying to look at. What about now? Yi Li looked at the flirtatious woman indifferently. Ah, my eyes, my eyes. The beautiful woman covered her eyes and howled in pain. Lin Ting was naturally terrified. He did not see how Yi Li attacked. After all, he was a 7th-tier evolved being. You actually dare to attack my woman? Lin Ting calmed himself down and stared fiercely at Yi Li. Lin Ting? Yi Li smiled and a mocking smile appeared on his handsome face. He looked at Lin Ting and slowly said, What is Lin Ting? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked. Chapter 702. Miscalculate. Everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at Yi Li. They could not believe that Yi Li would say such arrogant words. What was Lin Ting? The young master of the #1 genetic warrior family in White Cloud Bay City, the #1 genius in White Cloud Bay City. What was he? They had seen many arrogant people, but they had never heard of someone as arrogant as Yi Li. What did you say? Lin Ting's expression turned cold. He had never heard such words since he was born. So you're deaf, Yi Li said lightly. When everyone present heard this, they took 3 steps back. They did not understand. They really did not understand why there was such an arrogant person in this world. Brat, I'm the young master of the Lin family, Lin Ting said firmly to Yi Li. In Lin Ting's opinion, Yi Li would definitely be scared out of his wits after knowing his true identity. Everyone thought so too. They felt that Yi Li was not afraid of Lin Ting because he did not know Lin Ting. However, everyone in White Cloud Bay City knew about the Lin family. They all looked at Yi Li's face. However, they did not expect that Yi Li's expression did not change at all. It was as if he did not hear anything. The Lin family is just an ant, Yi Li said slowly. What? Arrogant, absolutely arrogant. Everyone opened their eyes wide. They didn't know how many lives Yi Li had to have to dare to be so arrogant. Could it be, as they had guessed, that Yi Li blocked young Master Lin's path just to commit suicide? Brat, do you know what will happen to you when you say this? Lin Ting looked at Yi Li coldly. No. Yi Li shook his head. Lin Ting smiled coldly. Then let me tell you that you will die without a burial place. Yi Li smiled to himself. He didn't understand why people always thought that they could kill him. He looked at Lin Ting indifferently. Then do you know the consequences of offending me, Yi Li? Lin Ting didn't expect Yi Li to dare to refute him. He flew into a rage and roared at Yi Li. So what if we offended you, Yi Li? Our Lin family can't afford to offend you. Before Lin Ting could finish his sentence, he suddenly thought of something and stood rooted to the ground like cold water had been splashed on his head. Who did you just say you were? Yi Li. Yi Li's expression was calm as he continued. You can also call me Demon King Yi Li. What? Everyone present finally reacted and looked at Yi Li in shock. Demon King Yi Li? The person in front of him was Demon King Yi Li? Was he the one who wanted to challenge the 4 weapons hall? The news of Yi Li casually holding Leng Shue's palm with 2 fingers naturally spread. After all, Leng Shue was a Tier 3 transcender. Answer me. Yi Li looked at Lin Ting indifferently. How could Lin Ting still be able to say a complete sentence? He was only a 7th tier evolved being. Yi Li could even easily defeat Leng Shue, who was a Tier 3 surpasser, let alone him. What do you want? Our Lin family has a 6th tier transcender. Lin Ting wanted to use the Lin family's 6th tier transcender to make Yi Li retreat. Unfortunately, not only did he miscalculate, but he also miscalculated to the extreme. Chapter 703. Go to the Lin family. Yi Li was never afraid of threats from others. No one in this world could threaten him. A 6th tier transcender is just SOSO, Yi Li said slowly to Lin Ting. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding crowd turned pale with fright. Although they knew that Yi Li had easily defeated Leng Shue was only a Tier 3 transcender. Demon King Yi Li actually said that a 6th tier transcender was only SOSO? Wasn't this too arrogant? Lin Ting stared at Yi Li. He wanted Yi Li to back off, but Yi Li was not afraid at all. Yi Li, how dare you say that my Lin family's 6th tier transcender is only SOSO? Lin Ting said coldly. Yi Li smiled and slowly said to Lin Ting, you're already dead. Lin Ting's expression changed upon hearing this. What did you say? I said you're dead. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Ting let out a scream and fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. What? The onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. They never thought that Demon King Yi Li would suddenly kill Lin Ting. They did not even see how Yi Li attacked. Looking at Lin Ting's corpse, everyone was shocked. Demon King Yi Li actually killed young Master Lin, then the Lin family. Lin Ting is the young master of the Lin family. The Lin family will definitely not let this matter rest. Just wait. There's going to be a good show soon. While everyone was whispering, Yi Li looked at an ordinary person. When the ordinary person saw that Yi Li was looking at them, he was terrified. He felt the horror of death. Where is the Lin family? Yi Li looked at the ordinary people and spoke slowly. This ordinary person didn't dare to hide anything and quickly told Yi Li the location of the Lin family. Yili's face was as calm as water. He began to walk slowly towards the Lin family. Seeing this, everyone was terrified. They really did not expect Yili to ask where the Lin family was. Could it be? Suddenly they all thought of a shocking possibility. That was, Yili wanted to take the initiative to go to the Lin family. Thinking of this, everyone followed. If Demon King Yili really went to the Lin family, this would undoubtedly be an earth-shattering matter. Not only did he kill the Lin family's young master Lin Teng, but he also took the initiative to go to the Lin family. No one would let go of this good show. More and more people followed and they were all whispering. Is Demon King Yili really going to the Lin family? It looks like the route is right. Demon King Yili is preparing to go to the Lin family. Oh my god, doesn't that mean there's going to be a shocking battle? Everyone could not help but quicken their pace. Not long after, Yili appeared outside the Lin family's house and many people followed behind him. In an instant, all the genetic warriors of the Lin family rushed out. Tengair, Demon King Yili want you dead. An angry voice came from the Lin family. It was obvious that the Lin family already knew that Lin Teng had been killed by Demon King Yili. Not long after he finished speaking, an old man in his 70s appeared in front of Yili. The old man's face was pale gold, and his entire body exuded a dignified aura. Yili could easily imagine that he was a 6th-tier transcender. The old man was the head of the Lin family. The old man was Lin Zhan, the head of the Lin family. He looked at the crowd outside the door. What are you doing outside our Lin family? Lin Zhan said coldly. Chapter 704, Kneel and beg for mercy or should I attack? Lin Zhan had never seen Yili. He had just found out that Lin Teng had been killed by the Demon King Yili. When the surrounding crowd heard Lin Zhan's words, they were all a little shocked. Is your Lin family going to kneel down and beg for mercy, or do you want me to make a move? Yili looked at Lin Zhan and said calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yili in extreme fear. Was it really good to say such words in front of everyone in the Lin family? Everyone in the Lin family was extremely angry. They stared at Yili, not understanding where such an arrogant person came from. Brat, you must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall. A 6th-tier evolved being glared at Yili. The 6th-tier evolved being's tone was extremely disdainful. Their Lin family was the strongest family in White Cloud Bay City. No one had ever dared to challenge their Lin family's prestige. Yili shook his head secretly, wondering when a 6th-tier evolved being would dare to talk to him. You're already dead. Yili looked at the 6th-tier evolved being. What? The 6th-tier evolved being was stunned. This was the last word that the 6th-tier evolved being had said in his life. The moment he said this word, the 6th-tier evolved being had already fallen to the ground. His face was filled with deep fear, as if he had seen something extremely terrifying before he died. What? The onlookers were shocked again. They still did not see how Yili attacked, but this 6th-tier evolved being from the Lin family was dead. All the genetic warriors of the Lin family were the same. They looked at Yili in horror. Could it be? Was the person in front of him the god of death? How could he casually announce the death of others? As a 6th-tier transcender, Lin Zhan stared at Yili coldly. Who are you? Lin Zhan stared at Yili and asked coldly. Yili smiled and looked at the sun in the sky. After a few seconds he slowly said, Yili. Yili? The expressions of everyone from the Lin family changed. Demon King Yili. The genetic warriors of the Lin family could not help but exclaim. Yili's handsome face was calm as he slowly said to Lin Zhan, He'll say it again. Are you going to kneel down and beg for mercy or do you want me to attack? Yili was such a person. If the Lin family knelt down and begged for mercy he could choose to let the Lin family off. However, if they did not choose to kneel down and beg for mercy, then today would be their doomsday. Demon King Yili, you killed my grandson and now you want my Lin family to kneel and beg for mercy? Lin Ting shouted angrily. Everyone from the Lin family looked at Yili angrily. In their opinion, Demon King Yili was too arrogant. He actually dared to challenge the Lin family alone and even said such arrogant words. Yili shook his head slowly and said to the Lin family calmly, I've already given you all a chance to live. However, if you all don't cherish it then don't blame me. Yili raised his finger. Terrifying white spiritual light wrapped around his finger. For some reason, when the Lin family saw such a terrifying white spiritual light, they were all scared because they felt unprecedented fear. Rest in peace everyone. As soon as he finished speaking, his finger fell. The extremely terrifying white spiritual light suddenly attacked the Lin family. Chapter 705. You don't value your chance of survival. The extremely terrifying white spiritual light flew towards the Lin family. Everyone from the Lin family widened their eyes. They discovered that the terrifying white spiritual light was really too terrifying. Moreover, its speed was so fast that they could not dodge it all. Boom. Suddenly, a shocking explosion entered the ears of the surrounding crowd. The onlookers fell to the ground one after another. Their faces were filled with horror, and their strength seemed to have been drained. What they had seen and heard today was something that they would never forget even if they spent their entire lives. They looked at Yilis' back in a daze and realized that Yilis' slightly thin back was so tall at this moment. It was like a huge mountain that they could not even look up at. When the terrifying white light disappeared, the onlookers hurriedly looked forward. When they saw it, they were all so frightened that they cried out. Corpses. Countless corpses appeared before their eyes. Of course, they knew that these corpses were all the corpses of the Lin family disciples. One finger, just one finger, and the Lin family was wiped out? One had to know that the Lin family was the #1 family in the White Cloud base. However, not all of the Lin family members were dead. There was only one left. The remaining genetic warrior was none other than the Lin family's patriarch, the 6th-tier transcender, Lin Zhan. At this moment, Lin Zhan's entire body was trembling violently. He dared to swear, he really dared to swear that the attack just now was the most terrifying attack he had seen since he was born, and Yili was also the most terrifying person he had seen since he was born. Yili slowly walked towards Lin Zhan. When Lin Zhan saw Yili walking towards him, he had already forgotten about his hatred and forgot that Yili had slaughtered his entire family. At this moment, he only had one thought, and that was to survive. I gave you a chance just now, why didn't you cherish it? Yili looked at Lin Zhan indifferently. How could Lin Zhan say a complete sentence? The roots of his teeth were trembling. Although he was already in his 70s, he had not lived enough. He did not want to die. As long as he did not die, the Lin family could continue to grow stronger. Master Demon King, please spare my life. Lin Zhan knelt in front of Yili and kowtowed heavily to him. The onlookers looked at each other and looked at each other. They thought that Yili's challenge to the 4-weapons hall was a joke, but now it seemed that it was not a joke at all. Lin Zhan continued to kowtow to Yili because he knew that as long as there was life, there was hope. Yili's handsome face did not change at all. He slowly said to Lin Zhan, I gave you a chance to live just now, but you didn't cherish such an opportunity. Do you think he'll still let you live? Lin Zhan hurriedly raised his head and looked at Yili in horror. However, he found that Yili's finger had already been raised. The terrifying white spiritual light wrapped around his finger again. Or? Before Yili's finger landed, Lin Zhan screamed because he knew that this was his last scream. At this moment, Lin Zhan, the head of the Lin family in White Cloud Bay City, had died. Most of the onlookers were so scared that they peed their pants. Some even fainted. Those who didn't faint looked at Yili in shock and realized that there was no change in Yili's expression. It was as if he was doing something insignificant. Chapter 706. Chu Han charged into the palace. Translator. Naoibo Studio Editor. Naoibo Studio, Grandpa, I have something to report, Su Yingxue said, lifting her dress and kneeling heavily on the ground. Su Qingji, seeing the determination in her eyes, replied, Tell me. I and Chu Han pledged our lives to each other. Regardless of the outcome of this battle or what the future holds, I will stand by his side, she declared. Her charming watery eyes sparkled like a clear spring in a fairyland, and her determined expression mirrored her mother's. Su Qingji smiled helplessly. You're just like your mother. Even I can't control you. You can do as you please in the future. If it had been any other child of the Su family, Su Qingji would have restrained, persuaded, or even punished them severely. But Su Yingxue, he couldn't bear it. Not even. She was Shuli's child. To him, Shuli was more like a caring biological daughter. She was the pride of his life. Su Qingzi's tolerance surprised Su Yingxue, and his words surprised her even more. Ninth Prince is not reckless. Since he mentioned proposing, you can wait at home. Don't act impulsively and be patient, Su Qingji advised. Su Yingxue was still a little restless. She had wanted to send the shadow guards to scout out the situation and rush to Chu Yihan's side. However, her grandfather's words dispelled that thought. She decided to wait patiently for Chu Yihan's return. From the moment the army entered the imperial palace, chaos ensued. The palace servants panicked and attempted to flee, but Chu Yihan's army chased them back, settling them in a corner without harm or allowing them to cause panic. A few imperial guards in the imperial palace still resisted. Chu Yihan ordered, "Those who surrender will not be killed. Those who dare to resist will be executed without mercy." His orders were transmitted throughout the palace, and his imposing aura commanded obedience. He entered the palace majestically. In the harem, news of Chu Yihan's intrusion caused panic. The empress was the most panicked, especially upon hearing that Chu Qingye had been sent out by the emperor but had not returned. Ignoring the palace servants' attempts to stop her, she rushed toward Chu Yihan. Noble consort Xiao's palace was also in turmoil. Granny Song reported, "Your Majesty, the 9th prince has entered the palace. The harem is in chaos, with many concubines packing up and fleeing, fearing that the 9th prince will massacre them after usurping the throne." To the women in the harem, the emperor was their lifeline. If the emperor were killed, death would not be far off for them. Noble consort Xiao was also shocked to hear this news. So the 9th prince did enter after all. But her first concern was, is Linger with him? Is he still in Qilin Garden? Granny Song had dispatched someone to investigate. The 9th prince did not bring Jinling with him. "If everything is fine, your highness should still be in the Xiao family." Noble consort Xiao's nervous heart immediately calmed down. She picked up her notebook and lay back on the chaise lounge. As long as Linger is safe, let the 9th prince and the emperor do as they please. "But your Majesty, shouldn't we come up with a plan? If the 9th prince kills the emperor, it may also affect you," Granny Song reminded her. A trace of disdain flashed across noble consort Xiao's delicate features. "If the emperor dies, so be it. The 9th prince is not a fool. You won't target me. Look, when he entered the palace, did any soldiers break into our quarters?" Chapter 707, Poisoned Near-Death Translator. Naoibo Studio Editor. Naoibo Studio. Compared to Chu Mingyuan, who was seated in the imperial study, noble consort Xiao found Chu Yihan's ability to make a grand entrance without causing chaos in the palace more reassuring. Granny Song was genuinely startled by noble consort Xiao's demeanor. While she admired her positive attitude, she had to consider her welfare. If the emperor dies, your Majesty's position as imperial consort will be at risk. And the 9th prince, he'll inevitably be affected. Don't worry. Noble consort Xiao reassured Granny Song, patting her hand with the book. "Why do you think I allowed Linger to get close to his 9th imperial uncle? Linger doesn't have the ability or desire to vie for the throne. As long as he enjoys this honor and lives happily, the 9th prince won't harm him because of their familial bond. As for certain individuals," when noble consort Xiao thought of the empress, she couldn't help but feel a sense of schadenfreude. Doesn't she see whether her son has what it takes? She's so eager for her son to ascend the throne, and now, all her sons will be affected. She would wait and see while reading her book. The fate of the empress' sons would undoubtedly be more thrilling than the book's ending. Outside the imperial study, the only place in the palace emitting a strong scent of blood, Chu Yihan had personally dispatched all of Chu Mingyuan's guards. Anyone who tried to stop him from entering the imperial study now lay dead outside. Chu Mingyuan, dressed in a dragon robe, looked less imposing compared to Chu Yihan, whose body was drenched in blood. The latter seemed more like the emperor of the Great Qing dynasty. "Traitor! Chu Yihan, you traitor! Aren't you afraid of being condemned by the people for usurping the throne unjustly?" Chu Mingyuan shouted, his face livid with anger. Chu Yihan's bloodbath in the imperial study had severed the last string in his mind. He had entrusted his military power to Chu Qingye, but Chu Qingye had not returned. All his guards, even those from the Lan family, had perished before him. Beside him, no one. Chu Yihan looked up, his ink-like eyes dark and deep. "Imperial brother, do you still have soldiers with you?" "No, they were gone." Standing in front of the imperial study, Chu Mingyuan knew very well that he was all alone. Chu Yihan could end his life at any moment and usurp his position as emperor. "Emperor!" Suddenly, a woman's urgent scream pierced the air. When Chu Mingyuan saw the empress rushing over, he felt a sense of relief. "Empress, you've come." Fortunately, there was still someone willing to stand by his side when he was in danger. The empress failed to notice the tenderness in Chu Mingyuan's eyes. This was what she had hoped for in the past. Now her heart was filled with Chu Qingye. She grabbed Chu Mingyuan's sleeve and questioned, "Emperor, where's Year? Where's my Year?" Chu Yihan barged in. "Where's Year?" Chu Mingyuan's heart sank. His face darkened. "You're only concerned about Year now that you're here? You don't care about me?" "Care about him? How could the Empress still be expected to care about him? She turned around and saw a mass of soldiers behind Chui Han, all of them exuding a powerful aura as they pointed accusingly at him. Chui Han, where's my year? What have you done to him? He's a prince. And he's your nephew by blood. What have you done to him? The Empress trembled. She feared that Chui Han would cruelly tell her that Chu Qingye had been killed by him. He was the apple of her eye, her hope for the future. Chui Han looked at the Empress disdainfully. Poisoned, he replied indifferently. Near death. Poisoned near death. The Empress' eyes rolled back and she fainted. Chapter 708. I'm not going to kill you for a moment. The scene began to freeze. Demon King Yi Li, if you dare to do anything to Leng Shui, I swear I will crush you into pieces. Tang Gang stared at Yi Li and said coldly. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face. Come on, not again. Why was there always someone who wanted to threaten him? Don't be afraid. I still want to make her change her expression. I won't hurt her. I just want to borrow her for a few days. Then Yi Li said to Tang Gang, after I leave with her, don't chase after me. You should know my speed. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li used swift steps and disappeared with Leng Shui. I'm so angry. Tang Gang was so angry that his face turned green. This was the first time in his life that he had been so angry. Yi Li brought Leng Shui to an unfamiliar small city. Leng Shui only came back to her senses after a few seconds. She stared at Yi Li. Yi Li, you can just kill me. Yi Li smiled and slowly said, I am not a heinous person. I won't kill you. Smile at me. Leng Shui's expression turned even colder as she glared at Yi Li. You're dreaming. Leng Shui gritted her teeth and said word by word. Yi Li shook his head slightly. I think you should understand a principle. In this world, no one can reject me, the Demon King Yi Li. Leng Shui, on the other hand, was disdainful. She turned her head to the side as if she hated Yi Li to the extreme. Roar. Roar. Suddenly, the zombies' roar entered Yi Li's ears. Hundreds of zombies could still pounce on him and Leng Shui. In Yi Li's eyes, these zombies were naturally extremely weak. Swish, swish, swish. With countless wind-breaking sounds, hundreds of zombies fell to the ground. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind and synthesized all these zombies. Seeing that, Leng Shui's pupils couldn't help but constrict. She didn't expect that the number of hundreds of zombies would decrease so quickly until only one was left. And the last zombie also disappeared before her eyes. How did you know? Leng Shui looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li smiled calmly. There's nothing worth talking about. Master, we found little Yu Zhu's whereabouts. At this moment, a voice sounded in Yi Li's heart. An excited smile appeared on Yi Li's face. He looked at Leng Shui and said calmly, let's go. Where are we going? Leng Shui stared at Yi Li. Don't ask. Just follow me. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li slowly walked forward. Leng Shui stared at Yi Li's back. Of course, she wouldn't choose to compromise. She pondered for a few seconds and wanted to escape when Yi Li wasn't paying attention. In the blink of an eye, Leng Shui jumped up and prepared to escape. But what Leng Shui didn't expect was that when she jumped onto a tall building, Yi Li had already appeared in front of her. How is it possible? Leng Shui could not believe it. Yi Li smiled faintly. Nothing is impossible in this world. Come with me quickly. Don't let me see you escape again. With that, Yi Li appeared on the street and started walking slowly. Leng Shui stared at Yi Li on the street and could only follow him. Then Yi Li and Leng Shui headed towards the coordinates given by Hongya. Chapter 709. Their zombies. Yi Li and Leng Shui arrived at the place and he saw Hongya. Master. Hongya walked over and called out to Yi Li. Yi Li nodded. Where's little Yu Zhu? There it is. Hongya pointed at a place. Yi Li looked in the direction Hongya was pointing at and saw little Yu Zhu sitting on a rooftop. She was holding her doll and singing lyrics that made one's scalp tingle. Shake, shake, shake to Granny Bridge. Roar. Roar. Immediately after, countless zombie roars sounded. Without a doubt, these zombies were all synthesized by Yi Li in the end. Leng Shui looked at this scene in shock and didn't know what to say. Little Yu Zhu stopped singing. Come down quickly, Yi Li said to Yu Zhu on the rooftop. Why are you disturbing my singing? Why are you disturbing my singing? All of a sudden, little Yu Zhu's face became extremely ferocious. She shouted at Yi Li coldly. Yi Li smiled. Your singing doesn't sound good. As soon as these words were spoken, it was as if little Yu Zhu's heart was pierced. Little Yu Zhu threw her doll away and attacked Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly and reached out to grab Little Yu Zhu firmly. Little Yu Zhu began to struggle, but no matter how hard she struggled, she could not break free. Wu, why are you saying that my singing is terrible? Why are you saying that my singing is terrible? Yi Li smiled. Little Yu Zhu was already a zombie, yet she still had such a temperament. Without thinking too much, Yi Li placed Little Yu Zhu into the system space and began to use the soul summoning banner. Ding. Soul summoning banner being used, 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. The soul summoning banner has been successfully used. With the system's order, Little Yu Zhu's 3 souls and 7 spirits appeared in front of Yi Li. When Leng Shui saw this scene, she was truly shocked to the extreme. How is this possible? Leng Shui swore that this was definitely the most shocking scene she had seen since she was born. Yi Li didn't care about the shock on Leng Shui's face. He opened the synthesized grid in his mind and began to synthesize the 3 souls and 7 spirits of Little Yu Zhu. A few seconds later, the complete Little Yu Zhu appeared in front of Yi Li. Master! After Little Yu Zhu saw that it was Yi Li, she shouted excitedly at Yi Li and pounced on Yi Li like Yutong. Yi Li touched Little Yu Zhu's head and looked at Leng Shui indifferently. He realized that Leng Shui was frozen on the spot like a clay statue. Are you very shocked? Yi Li looked at Leng Shui. Leng Shui was stunned. She really didn't know what kind of question this was. Anyone who saw such a scene would be shocked. Before she could answer, she heard Yi Li say, "Don't be shocked forever because everything I do will shock you for 3 days and 3 nights." Leng Shui looked at Yi Li in shock. She didn't understand why there was someone like Yi Li in this world. Go ahead. Yi Li asked Little Yu Zhu to find the whereabouts of the other members. Hongya also went with them. Only Yi Li and Leng Shui were left in this unfamiliar city. They are, Leng Shui looked at Yi Li curiously and asked. Zombies? Yi Li answered slowly. What? Leng Shui didn't seem to expect Yi Li's reply. She couldn't help but take 3 steps back. Zombies? She didn't dare to believe that they were zombies. Chapter 710, Chapter EO, 4 Weapons Hall's Bounty. Yi Li did not want to explain anything to Leng Shui. He looked at Leng Shui indifferently. Let's go. Leng Shui was stunned. Where are we going? I have no idea. After saying that, Yi Li slowly walked forward. Leng Shui had seen Yi Li's speed and knew that she could not escape. Helpless, she could only follow him. In the past few days, an earth-shattering event had happened in the Mystic Land. The super faction, the 4 Weapons Hall, offered a reward. Whoever could kill Demon King Yi Li would receive a super reward from the 4 Weapons Hall. All of a sudden, the people from the 4 Weapons Hall and the various large factions in the Mystic Land were swept up in a frenzy to find Demon King Yi Li. Yi Li and Leng Shui slowly walked along an unfamiliar path. He already knew about the 4 Weapons Hall's bounty, but he felt that the 4 Weapons Hall's actions were too ridiculous. Demon King Yi Li, I advise you not to persist. Leng Shui said coldly to Yi Li. Persist? Do you think I, Yi Li, am persisting? Yi Li smiled calmly. Leng Shui was stunned. He really did not understand why Yi Li could still smile at this moment. The entire Mystic Land was looking for him. Everyone says that Demon King Yi Li is very handsome. I didn't believe it at first, but one believe it now. A smug voice entered Yi Li's ears. As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of genetic warriors in black rushed out from all directions and surrounded Yi Li and Leng Shui. The black-clothed man in the lead looked to be in his 30s. There was a long scar on his fierce-looking face, making him look terrifying. Demon King Yi Li, we are from Organization X, the leader of the men in black said coldly to Yi Li. Yi Li looked at the black-robed man indifferently. The black-robed man was a Tier 1 transcender, while the others were all 7th tier to 8th tier evolved beings. I've never heard of any X organization, but one really want to know what you guys are going to do, Yi Li said slowly. The leader of the men in black smiled coldly. He stared at Yi Li. Demon King Yi Li, do you really not understand, or are you pretending not to understand? The 4 Weapons Hall has a bounty on you. As long as we take your head, our Organization X will obtain a supreme reward. Is it that easy to take my head? Yi Li smiled faintly. As soon as he said that, the expressions of all the men in black from Organization X turned cold. They stared at Yi Li. Demon King Yi Li, we have so many people surrounding you. I didn't expect you to be so calm. I really admire you. However, no matter how calm you are, it's useless because you're about to die. The leader of the men in black sneered. Yi Li shook his head slightly and looked at the leader of the men in black. How can people like you change? What? These men didn't understand what Yili meant and looked at him in confusion. Demon King Yili, what do you mean? The leader of the men in black said coldly to Yili. Yili smiled faintly. His handsome face was as calm as water. He slowly said, I don't mean anything special. I just feel that only death can change you. As soon as he finished speaking, Yili attacked. The dozens of men in black from Organization X could not withstand Yili's attack no matter what. Ah! With dozens of screams, they all fell to the ground with their eyes wide open. Chapter 7:11. Zombie Queen MOU's whereabouts. Poor ants. Yili looked at the bodies of dozens of men in black from Organization X and shook his head. Lung Shui looked at Yili. For some reason she suddenly felt that people like Yili were too scary. People like him seemed to kill without batting an eyelid. Yili smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face at all. Master MOU's whereabouts have been discovered. Suddenly, Ada's voice sounded in Yili's heart. In the post-apocalyptic world, only Zombie Queen MOU and Ghost Sword Achi were left. Now that Ada had discovered MOU's whereabouts, Achi was the only one left. Then Yili and Lung Shui headed towards a certain place. Can you tell me your level? Lung Shui was curious. She was too curious. Anyway, it's not something you can imagine, Yili said slowly. Actually, what one want to tell you is that no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to win against the Four Weapons Hall. Lung Shui stared at Yili and said. Yili smiled. The Four Weapons Hall has already given up on you, yet you're still speaking up for them. What a good disciple. Lung Shui could not help but tremble when she heard that. Nonsense. The Four Weapons Hall clearly knows that you're by my side, yet they still issued a bounty. Do you think they haven't given up on you? Hearing this, Lung Shui was stunned. I don't believe you. Lung Shui looked at Yili firmly. Although she said that she didn't believe him in her heart, Yili didn't continue speaking and walked towards Ada Northern Plains. The largest wilderness in the Mystic Land was a paradise for the dark race and zombies. The largest territory of the dark race in the Mystic Land was here, the Tyrant Whale Silver Sun Tiger race. The Tyrant Whale Silver Sun Tiger race was the most terrifying dark race in the Mystic Land. They had immense strength and were all tiger-shaped people. However, their main bodies were the most terrifying. Yili and Lung Shui had arrived in the Northern Plains. Demon King Yili, do you know that this is the Northern Plains? Lung Shui said to Yili, no. Yili shook his head. Lung Shui was stunned. She told Yili about what happened in the Northern Plains. So you're scared. Yili looked at Lung Shui. As soon as he said that, Lung Shui could not help but be shocked. He did not understand. He really did not understand. Could it be that Yili was not afraid? Roar, roar. In an instant, countless zombies pounced on Yili. Yili hadn't synthesized the zombies in front of him yet. He looked at Lung Shui indifferently, then raised a finger. Terrifying white spiritual energy began to wrap around his finger. One finger that can destroy the world. As soon as he finished speaking, his finger fell. The extremely terrifying white spiritual energy flew towards the zombie. Before Lung Shui could see clearly, all the zombies were dead. Yili didn't say anything and slowly walked towards Ada. Not long after, a tragic scene of the human world appeared in front of Yili's eyes. There were mountains of corpses and it really made one's scalp tingle. Master, you're here, Ada called out to Yili. Yili nodded and didn't say anything else. Erda started to leave with Yi to look for MOU. A moment later, MOU appeared in front of Yili. At this moment, MOU was fighting with a member of the dark race. Both of them were in the 7th tier and the battle was unusually intense. 7th tier zombie, stop struggling. You can't beat me. The 7th tier dark race member smiled smugly at MOU. Yili smiled faintly. He was amused because he felt that the 7th tier dark race's words were too funny. Chapter 7:12. Master, I found Achi's whereabouts. Stop fighting, Yili shouted at the 7th tier dark race member. The 7th tier dark race member was shocked. He hurriedly retreated more than 10 meters and looked in the direction of the voice. Humans. The 7th tier dark race member could not help but exclaim. He would never have thought that a human would appear in the Northern Plains. The Northern Plains had always been a forbidden land for humans. It had been many years since the 7th tier dark race had seen humans. Kill yourself, Yili looked at the 7th tier dark race member and said. Ha ha ha. However, the 7th tier dark race seemed to have heard the funniest joke in history. He slowly laughed out loud. Yili smiled faintly. Is it funny? It's more than funny. It's simply funny to the extreme. The 7th-tier Dark Race member had yet to finish his sentence, but he would never have the chance to finish it. This was because a shocking bloody hole had already appeared on his forehead. Roar. However, Mou roared and rushed towards Yili. Yili smiled to himself. He thought that Mou was really cooperative. In Yili's eyes, a 7th-tier zombie was naturally pitifully weak. Yili grabbed Mou mercilessly and started activating the soul summoning banner. A few seconds later, the complete Mou appeared. Master, is it really you? Mou looked extremely excited. Of course it's me, Mou. What are you talking about? Yili looked at Mou. Zombie Queen Mou was very excited. She originally thought that she would never see Yili again in her life, but she did not expect that happiness would come so suddenly. Master, I think we should leave this place. The tyrant whale Silver Sun Tiger race here is very terrifying, Alda said to Yili. Yili was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect Ada to say such a thing. However, he knew that to be able to make Ada say such a thing, it meant that the tyrant whale Silver Sun Tiger clan was indeed very terrifying. Master, I found Achi's whereabouts. Suddenly Yutong's voice appeared in Yili's heart. Upon hearing this, a playful expression appeared on Yili's face. When luck came, it was like chewing gum and couldn't be stopped. Let's go. Then the group headed in a certain direction. After a day, the group arrived at a city occupied by zombies. Yili saw Yutong from afar. Yutong was sitting on the swing excitedly. There were zombies in front and behind her. It seemed that these zombies had already submitted to Yutong. After all, Yutong was a 5th-tier Lord-level zombie. Master. Yutong flew over and pecked Yili's face excitedly. Master, Achi is in this city. It's a Lord-level zombie, Yutong said to Yili. The city wasn't big. Yili used his heavenly spirit eyes to check and found Achi's figure. Achi was lying comfortably with a few female zombies massaging him. Upon seeing this, Yili's face darkened. He had never realized that Achi was so good at playing. You guys stay here. They'll go alone. After saying that, Yili activated the swift steps and disappeared on the spot. As long as he synthesized Achi's 3 souls and 7 spirits, he would be able to find all the troops in the post-apocalyptic world. Fortunately, he had the soul summoning banner. Otherwise, Yili did not know how long he would take to find them. Then Yili went to a hall that looked very comfortable. Chapter 7:13. Complete Ghost Sword. Achi. The female zombies who were massaging Achi's back were all surprised to see Yili. Who are you? The 3 female zombies were all 5th-tier zombies, so they could naturally speak. I am your master's master, Yili said slowly. Hearing that, the 3 female zombies were surprised. They didn't understand what Yili meant, so they turned to Achi, who was sitting on the couch. Human, from what you said, you're my master? Achi looked at Yili playfully. Yili nodded. Yes, it is. Achi was furious when he heard that. He stared at Yili. Human, I really didn't expect you to appear here and say such things to me. Other than committing suicide, you have a better explanation. With that, Achi stood up and the cleave sword appeared in his hand. Human, if you want to be Achi's master, you have to ask if my cleave sword agrees. Yili smiled. Achi, don't you think you're very interesting? When Achi heard this, he became even angrier. Looking at Yili's calm expression, he roared, Human, do you know that as long as I move the cleave sword in my hand, you will die without a burial place? Yili shook his head slightly. Achi, why don't I show you my sword? With that, Yili took out the ancient dragon abyss sword from the system space. Instantly, the sound of a dragon and a sword appeared in the hall. The few 5th-tier female zombies were so frightened that their souls fell to the ground. They looked at Yili in horror. Human, the sword in your hand? Achi looked at the ancient dragon abyss sword in Yili's hand in shock because he felt that the sword in Yili's hand was too terrifying. Achi, what do you think of my sword? Yili looked at Achi playfully. Achi stared at Yili. Compared to the ancient dragon abyss sword in Yili's hand, his cleave sword was like heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. Come over. Yili waved at Achi. As a zombie lord, Achi had never seen a human dare to wave at him. He immediately became furious. Human, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. As soon as he finished speaking, Achi flew towards Yili at lightning speed. Yili was still a little emotional. As long as he synthesized Achi's 3 souls and 7 spirits, all 9 zombies of the post-apocalyptic world army would be found. How could a 10th-tier zombie like Achi be a match for Yili? Yi Li threw him into the system space and activated the soul summoning banner. Ding. Soul summoning banner being used, 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. The soul summoning banner has been successfully used. Achi's 3 souls and 7 spirits appeared in front of Yi Li. Without any hesitation, he opened the synthesis grid in his mind and began to synthesize Achi's 3 souls and 7 spirits. Master. Achi's face was filled with surprise. Yi Li suddenly felt high-spirited. Now that all 9 zombies of the army in the post-apocalyptic world had been found, it was time to recall all the zombies. Then, Yi Li used his telepathy to call back the other zombies in the post-apocalyptic world. Achi, let's go. Yi Li looked at Achi. Yi Li asked Achi to kill all the zombies in the city. When he reached Alda's side, all the zombies in the city had fallen to the ground. Yi Li synthesized these zombies. Chapter 7:14. Complete Apocalypse Legion. A few days later, the 9 zombies of the Apocalypse Legion appeared in front of Yi Li. Yi Li looked at the Apocalypse Legion in satisfaction. Ada Hongye by Wawa Yutong, Achi Bone Maiden Long Yu Mou and Little Yuju. At this moment, Ada Hongye by Wawa Yutong and Long Yu were all 5th tier Lord level zombies. The rest were all tier 1 Lord level zombies. Yi Li wanted to upgrade all the members of the Apocalypse Legion to 5th tier Lord level zombies. Ding. The Pangu Axe trial begins. Suddenly the system's voice sounded in Yi Li's ears. Yi Li's handsome face showed a playful smile as he thought that whatever he wanted would come. Then he entered an unfamiliar space. This unfamiliar space was a place with mountains and rivers. However, Yi Li knew that the so-called trial was to transcend the tribulation. Dark clouds began to gather in the sky, and a vortex began to spin rapidly. 7-colored lightning began to roar inside. Yi Li looked at the 7-colored lightning above his head and thought that this might be the most terrifying lightning strike he had ever seen. He took out the ancient dragon abyss sword from the system space. Boom. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying 7-colored lightning struck down. Sky-severing sword. Yi Li didn't want to play any tricks. He directly used the divine level skill, the heaven-severing sword. The 7-colored lightning instantly disappeared without a trace. Boom. Yi Li originally thought that the 7-colored lightning would only strike once, but he did not expect that there was actually another 7-colored lightning, and it was dozens of times more terrifying than before. He had already used the heaven-severing sword once, so he could not use it a second time. Now he could only take it head-on. The terrifying 7-colored lightning struck Yi Li's body. Crack, crack. In an instant, the entire space began to tremble violently. Fortunately, Yi Li's defense was not bad. Otherwise he would have died. Ding. Congratulations to the host for passing the trial of Pangu Axe. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure chest. Ding. Host, do you wish to sign a bloodline contract with Pangu Axe? Sign it. Yi Li didn't hesitate at all. A few seconds later, the system notification sounded. Pangu Axe had already signed a bloodline with him. Without thinking too much, he fused the Pangu Axe into the ancient dragon abyss sword. Alright, there was also a super treasure chest. Yi Li opened the super treasure chest. Lord level zombie potions IO. Obtained a chance to level up your skills. Lord level zombie potions and skills upgrade opportunities? Yi Li's eyes lit up and he showed a playful smile. He first used the opportunity to upgrade his skills. The heaven-defying level skill, Heavenly Sword Technique, had become a god-level skill. Then he began to use the Lord-level zombie potion on the Apocalypse Legion. After using all the Lord-level zombie potions, all the members of the Apocalypse Legion finally upgraded to 5th tier Lord-level zombies. Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming a 6th tier chosen one. At this moment, the system's voice suddenly appeared in Yi Li's mind. Yi Li smiled and thought that he was already a 6th tier Heaven's chosen one. Where is Demon King Yi Li? Yi Li heard a loud shout. Yi Li looked in the direction of the voice and saw dozens of evolved beings in front of him. This group of genetic warriors were at most 10th tier evolved beings. In Yi Li's opinion, they were all here to commit suicide. Lung Shuai. They had brought this upon themselves. She knew how terrifying Yi Li was. At the same time, she also knew that this group of genetic warriors was already dead. Chapter 7:15. Take us to the 4 weapons hall. Dozens of genetic warriors surrounded Yi Li and the others. Demon King Yi Li, I didn't expect to find you so easily. The 10th tier evolved being looked at Yi Li smugly. Why are you here to seek death? Yili smiled faintly. The 10th tier evolved being was stunned. He had never expected Yili to say such a thing. Yili, what do you mean? The 10th tier evolved being looked at Yili coldly. Ada, you should know what to do, right? Yili looked at Ada. Ada nodded and flew out. Roar. Dozens of genetic warriors were only evolved beings. How could they withstand air DOS attack when facing a 5th tier Lord level zombie? Alt? As dozens of screams sounded, dozens of genetic warriors fell in front of Yili. Yili shook his head slowly. If I said that you were here to kill, why didn't you believe me? Let's go. Yili slowly said. Then Yili and his group slowly left the place. Leng Shui looked at Yili's back and couldn't help but feel uneasy. She thought that people like Yili would kill anyone they met. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to draw the lottery. The system's voice suddenly appeared in Yili's mind. Yili smiled and used the chance to draw the lottery without any hesitation. The virtual pointer started to spin on the roulette wheel. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a free zombie fusion opportunity. Yili was stunned. Free fusion opportunity for zombies? His face began to play tricks, thinking that whatever he wanted would really come. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Yili and the others heard a loud shout. After the laughter, hundreds of people rushed out from all directions with various kinds of weapons in their hands. If I'm not wrong, you must be Demon King Yili, a Tier 3 Transcender said as he stared at Yili. Yili nodded. That's right, I am Demon King Yili. We're the White Wolf organization. Since you're the Demon King Yili, you should die. Immediately, hundreds of genetic warriors from the White Wolf organization rushed towards Yili and his group. Yili really didn't understand why ants always came to die. Kill? Yili gave an order to the Apocalypse Legion. He was never a bloodthirsty person. However, since these people chose to die, he had no choice. In an instant, screams shook the heavens and the earth. Listening to such screams, Yili sighed gently. Not long after, the entire White Wolf organization was dead. Yili's face was as calm as water. He looked at Leng Shui and said, "Take us to the Four Weapons Hall." As soon as these words were spoken, Leng Shui's entire body trembled. You want to go to the Four Weapons Hall? Leng Shui's fair face was filled with disbelief. She really did not know why Yi had left the Four Weapons Hall. That's right. The Four Weapons Hall has been jumping around for so many days. It's time to teach them a lesson, Yili said slowly. What? When Leng Shui heard this, she could not help but be dumbfounded. Even if she used all her strength, she would not have thought that Yili would say such a thing. Yili wanted to deal with the Four Weapons Hall? Now that Yili had obtained the opportunity to fuse with the zombies for free, if he didn't deal with the Four Weapons Hall, when would he? Moreover, the Apocalypse Legion had all become 5th tier Lord level zombies and he was even a 6th tier chosen one. Chapter 7:16. Head to Four Weapons Hall. Yili, do you really think you can defeat the Four Weapons Hall? Leng Shui glared at Yili. No. Yili shook his head. Leng Shui was stunned. Since you can't defeat the Four Weapons Hall, why do you still want to go there? I didn't go there to defeat the Four Weapons Hall. I went to destroy the Four Weapons Hall, Yili said calmly. Leng Shui gritted her teeth. Yili, although I know you're very powerful, do you know what kind of power the Four Weapons Hall is? Leng Shui stared at Yili. Yili smiled calmly. Leng Shui, are you concerned about me, Yili? Leng Shui was shocked when she heard this. Her mouth was wide open. She never thought that Yili would say such a thing. Me you. Leng Shui did not know how to answer. Don't ever worry about me, Yili, because no one in this world can hurt me. Yili looked at Leng Shui. Leng Shui could not help but frown when she heard this. She dared to swear that she had never met such an arrogant person like Yili since she was born. However, Leng Shui's heart sank. She really did not know why she was worried about this man in front of her. This man had clearly captured her. Could this be love? Thinking of this, Leng Shui's face could not help but turn red. Yili looked at Leng Shui's face and sighed slowly. He said, Leng Shui, do you have to like me? When Leng Shui heard this, her expression immediately changed. What did you say? Yili shook his head. There are too many people who like me in this world. I advise you not to like me. Who likes you? Leng Shui was furious. She really couldn't think of why Yili was so narcissistic. Since you don't like me, lead the way, Yili said. Alright, you're the one who's going to die anyway. Don't blame me when the time comes, Leng Shui said angrily. Immediately Yili, the army from the post-apocalyptic world, and Leng Shui headed towards the Four Weapons Hall. The Four Weapons Hall was a super faction in the Mystic Land, and no other faction in the entire Mystic Land could match it. Of course, other than the Overlord Whale Silver Young Tiger clan in Northern Plains. Yi Li, the army from the post-apocalyptic world, and Leng Shui arrived at the foot of the Four Weapons Hall. Below the Four Weapons Hall was a city. This city was called the Weapon City. All the genetic warriors here used weapons. When Yi Li and his group arrived at the Weapon City, the passers-by were all shocked. Lady Leng Shui? Leng Shui was a disciple of the Spear Hall of the Four Weapons Hall. Naturally, many people in the Weapon City knew her. Wasn't Lady Leng Shui captured by Demon King Yi Li? Could she have escaped back? Guys, didn't you see the person beside Lady Leng Shui? Handsome and powerful. Could it be? The passers-by all took 3 steps back because they had all thought of a shocking possibility. That was Demon King Yi Li. The passers-by all sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes as wide as possible. Yi Li's handsome face was calm as he slowly said, "Tell the Four Weapons Hall that one Demon King Yi Li have arrived." As soon as these words were spoken, the passers-by were even more terrified. Although they guessed that the man in front of them might be the Demon King Yi Li, when Yi Li said it himself, it was as if all their strength had been drained. In an instant, the entire Weapon City knew that Demon King Yi Li had come. Of course, there were disciples of the Four Weapons Hall in the Weapon City. They hurried towards the Four Weapons Mountain. Chapter 717, Confrontation Four Weapons Hall. The 3 elders were sitting inside and discussing something. There were more than 10 chosen ones of different levels below. Demon King Yi Li is bullying our Four Weapons Hall too much. Axe Hall's Hall Master roared. The Hall Master of the Axe Hall was called Jin Lei, an 8th tier chosen one, and his weapon was the Purple Sun Heaven-breaking axe. Demon King Yi Li killed Shenkuan. Moreover, he even captured disciples of our Spear Hall. Spear Hall Master Tang Gang said, "If we Four Weapons Hall doesn't get rid of Demon King Yi Li, how can we Four Weapons Hall face others in the Mystic Land in the future?" The elder who spoke was called Shi. He was the Hall Master of the Stick Hall. He held a bright silver coiling dragon staff in his hand. He was also an 8th tier chosen one. Although the Four Weapons Hall was still called the Four Weapons Hall, the Knife Hall only existed in name. Report. Report. At this moment, a voice entered everyone's ears. An 8th tier evolved being hurriedly ran in with a shocked expression on his face. "Oh no, Demon King Yi Li has come to Weapon City." What? Everyone in the Four Weapons Hall was shocked. Demon King Yi Li came to Weapon City? Yes. Immediately, excitement appeared on the faces of Spear Hall's Hall Master Tang Gang, Axe Hall's Hall Master Jin Lei, and Stick Hall's Hall Master Shi. "I didn't expect Demon King Yi Li to walk right into our trap," Tang Gang said coldly. "Since Demon King Yi Li took the initiative to come forward to die, let's fulfill his wish." Immediately, everyone in the Four Weapons Hall disappeared from the hall. In the Weapon City, Yi Li and the Apocalypse Legion were on the top of a tall building. The citizens of Weapon City were all watching this scene. "Yi Li, I advise you to leave. The Four Weapons Hall is really not something you and the Apocalypse Legion can fight against." Leng Shui looked at Yi Li worriedly. Yi Li smiled and looked at Leng Shui indifferently. "One told you not to like me. One didn't expect you to still fall for me." Leng Shui frowned when she heard this and her fair face became very unhappy. She was secretly furious. She was clearly doing this for his own good. She didn't understand why Yi Li always didn't appreciate it. Perhaps, she thought that Yi Li was too confident in his own abilities. "Demon King Yi Li, we have arrived." Suddenly, a thunderous sound came from the sky. Immediately, the 3 Hall Masters and the new elders of the Four Weapons Hall appeared in midair. Then there was silence. Everyone on the streets of the Weapon City was dumbfounded as they watched this scene. They knew that this battle would be the most exciting battle they had ever seen. "Demon King Yi Li, one didn't expect you to take the initiative to come here and die." The head of the Spear Hall, Tang Gang, stared at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled. "But I don't think I'm here to die." Everyone from the Four Weapons Hall was a little angry. They didn't understand why Yi Li could still be so calm even now. "Demon King Yi Li, do you have a better ending other than death?" Tang Gang looked at Yi Li mockingly. Whether it was the people from Four Weapons Hall or the commoners on the streets of Weapon City, they all looked at Yi Li and wanted to see how he would answer. Yi Li smiled calmly. He shook his head and said, "Yes, one life. You guys die." "What?" The commoners on the streets of Weapon City all sucked in a breath of cold air because they felt that what Demon King Yili said was too arrogant. Demon King Yili, why are you still so calm? Axe Hall Master Jean Lei shouted coldly. Chapter 7:18. Yili's arrogance. Continue reading on X and Zeroville. Yili smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face at all. Who are you? Yili looked at Jean Lei calmly. Jean Lei smiled coldly. I will never change my name. 1 a.m. The Master of Axe Hall of the Four Weapons Hall, Jean Lei. Okay, is that all you've got? Yili responded slowly. The people of the Four Weapons Hall were enraged, and the commoners on the streets of Weapon City were even more shocked. Demon King Yili is too arrogant. That's right. I Wang Ergu have never seen such an arrogant person. Just you wait. Demon King Yili is about to die. No one can challenge the dignity of the Four Weapons Hall. Everyone in Weapon City thought that Yili was going to die soon because the one he offended was the Four Weapons Hall. Demon King Yili, for you to be so calm, could it be that you have something to rely on? The Hall Master of the Stick Hall, Shirhu, stared at Yili. Yili smiled. Who are you? My name is Shirhu, the Stick Hall Master of the Four Weapons Hall. Shirhu looked at Yili coldly. An ant. Yili shook his head. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked to the extreme. They really didn't understand how this Demon King Yili could be so arrogant. Actually, do I even need to rely on anything to destroy your Four Weapons Hall? Do you think your Four Weapons Hall is very strong? Yili's face was full of playfulness. He had such a free fusion opportunity, so what was he afraid of? He was not afraid of anything. The 5th level of the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword Embryo, Zombie Fusion, and the synthesized slash of 2 God-level skills. He was absolutely confident in facing 3 8th-tier Chosen Ones. Everyone from the Four Weapons Hall was infuriated as they glared at Yili. Demon King Yili, your tongue is indeed very sharp. I wonder if you can still be so calm when I kill you later. With that, Tang Gang prepared to attack. Wait. At this moment, Yili stopped Tang Gang. Tang Gang was stunned for a moment before a smug smile appeared on his old face. Demon King Yili, are you afraid? In Tang Gang's opinion, Yili must be afraid and was ready to beg him for mercy. Unfortunately, he never thought that not only was Yili not afraid, he even said something even more arrogant. Yili hooked his finger at the people from the Four Weapons Hall in the air and said calmly, all of you come at me together. One haven't eaten yet. Shocking, absolutely shocking. When everyone heard this, they froze like clay sculptures. They originally thought that Demon King Yili's previous words were already arrogant enough, but now they realized that not only were they wrong, but they were also wrong to the extreme. Leng Shui was so shocked that she was dumbfounded. She was about to persuade Yili to leave, but even if she used all her strength, she would never have thought that Yili would say such arrogant words. As the saying goes, you reap what you sow. From Leng Shui's point of view, Yili was already dead, although she didn't want Yili to die. Demon King Yili, what do you think my Four Weapons Hall is? The Hall Master of the Stick Hall, Shirhu, roared at Yili. Yili smiled lightly. His handsome face was very calm. He thought for a moment and replied, the Four Weapons Hall is an ant. What else could it be? Everyone from the Four Weapons Hall was extremely furious. Kill Demon King Yili. The leader of the Spear Hall suddenly roared. Chapter 7:19. The Might of a Slash. Continue reading on X and Zeroville. Following the command of the head of the Spear Hall, Tang Gang, the elders of the Four Weapons Hall began to fly towards Yili. These elders were all reselected elders of the Four Weapons Hall. It could not be helped. All the previous elders had died in the wasteland. Yili looked at the elders who were flying towards him and smiled faintly. The Apocalypse Legion fuse. Activate the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword Embryo. Suddenly the entire world seemed to shake violently. A dragon's cry and a sword's cry rang out. Terrifying sword, intense sword into the sky. Yili's entire body was surrounded by a demonic light, and the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword in his hand was wrapped in a strange light. The elders who flew towards Yili were all 5th-tier Chosen Ones. But now Yili's strength had reached the level of a 9th-tier Chosen One. He was about to slash out with his sword. What words could be used to describe this slash? I have a sword that can kill everyone in the world. Yili raised the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword and spoke slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword fell. Supreme Sword, light sword into the sky, and space cracked. The commoners on the streets of Weapon City fell to the ground. their faces were filled with horror. They could swear that this was the most terrifying scene they had ever seen since they were born. As for the 12 elders who flew towards Yi Li, there was no doubt about their fate. From the moment Yi Li slashed out with his sword, their lives would disappear from this world forever. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. One strike. Tang Gang's voice was trembling violently. The people on the streets of the Weapon City were frozen on the spot, as if they had been petrified. No words could describe their shock. Spear Hall's Hall Master Tang Gang, Axe Hall's Hall Master Jin Lei, and Stick Hall's Hall Master Shi who looked at the youth in front of them in horror. However, they realized that there was no change in the handsome face of the youth in front of them at all. Leng Shui's pupils constricted rapidly. She thought that Yi Li was already dead. However, she never expected such a situation. I told all of you to attack together but you didn't. Why are you wasting my time? Yi Li looked at the 3 hall masters of the 4 weapons hall with displeasure. When Tang Gang, Jin Lei and Shi who heard this, they stared at Yi Li. They had already recovered from their fear. Demon King Yi Li, the 3 of us are 8th tier chosen ones. Today's situation has reached a point where we won't stop until one of us dies. Either you die or we die. Tang Gang roared. Yi Li smiled calmly. Unfortunately, you're wrong about one thing. Which point? Tang Gang asked firmly. I won't die but you will, Yi Li said slowly. When Tang Gang heard this he was furious. How dare you be so arrogant? As soon as he finished speaking, a cold light flashed in the sky. A 3-pronged ghost head spear appeared in the hands of Spear Hall's Hall Master Tang Gang. The Hall Master of Axe Hall, Jin Lei, took out the purple gold sky-breaking axe. The Hall Master of the Stick Hall took out the bright silver coiling dragon staff. Everyone on the main street of the Weapon City held their breaths. It seemed that a true earth-shattering battle was about to arrive. What's there to be angry about? You're going to die soon. Yi Li looked at the 3 of them calmly. When the 3 of them heard this, they were even more furious. Demon King Yi Li, hand over your life. Immediately, the 3 of them flew towards Yi Li. Synthesized, Heaven-Severing Sword, Heaven Sword Technique. The 2 god-level skills began to synthesize. Demon King Palace, continue reading on X and Zeroville. M2 god-level skills synthesized a slash. Boom. Yi Li slashed out with his sword again. This time, it was hundreds of times more terrifying than before. When Tang Gang, Jin Lei and Shi saw this attack, their pupils began to rapidly constrict because they discovered that they could not dodge this attack. I'm done. The 3 of them shouted and immediately melted into the endless sword light. These were 3 8th tier chosen ones. Everyone on the streets of Weapon City were scared out of wits. They looked at Yi Li in horror. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. He put the ancient Dragon Abyss sword into the system space and released the Apocalypse Legion from his body. Didn't I tell you never to be shocked? Because everything I, Yi Li, do will shock you for 3 days and 3 nights. Leng Shui looked at Yi Li in a daze. She didn't understand. She really didn't understand why there was a person like Yi Li in this world. Could such a person really be described with words? Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming a 7th tier chosen one. The system's voice appeared in Yi Li's mind. Host, as long as you establish a sect, you can obtain a super treasure map. Yi Li was stunned. He wondered when he would have to obtain a super treasure map like this. It was really unreasonable. Naturally, he didn't care about the shock of the people of the Weapon City. He thought for a while. Let's go. Yi Li looked at Leng Shui. Leng Shui was stunned. She didn't expect Yi Li to say such words to her. Go where? I have no idea. Yi Li spoke slowly. With that, Yi Li opened his hand. Leng Shui naturally knew what Yi Li meant. After pondering for a few seconds, she chose to place her hand on Yi Li's. Yi Li activated swift steps and disappeared. Gently I come as gently as I go. Yi Li had been using the heavenly spirit eyes to search for a good place. Suddenly, he discovered a place with extremely dense spiritual energy. This was a huge mountain where ancient trees towered into the sky. Yi Li thought that this would do. System, in preparing to establish a sect here. Host, please choose the shape of the sect. Then, several options appeared in Yi Li's mind. Yi Li chose the shape of a dragon. Ding. Construction begins, 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. Construction successful. A dragon-shaped building appeared on the mountain in front of Yi Li, and it was extremely spacious. This system has such a function. Interesting. Yi Li smiled to himself. How is this possible? Leng Shui's eyes widened. She could not believe that this was real. However, no matter how she blinked, the dragon-shaped building still existed. Host, please name the sect. Yili thought for a few seconds and said, let's call it the Demon King Palace. Suddenly, 3 large words appeared in front of the dragon-shaped building. Demon King Palace. Demon King Palace? Leng Shui looked at the 3 words Demon King Palace. Her eyes filled with shock. Yili smiled. This is my sect. Then Yili brought Leng Shui to the Demon King Palace. What Yili didn't expect was that the Demon King Palace had everything. Yili sat on the throne and looked at the Apocalypse Legion. From today onwards, you are the 9 guardians of the Demon King Palace. As for you, Yili looked at Leng Shui. Leng Shui was shocked. She didn't know what Yili would say to her. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.